to the City Council that this notice is posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of Nassau Bay, Texas will conduct a regular meeting on August 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Like I said, it's 7:02 at the Council Chamber, City Hall, 1800 Drive, Suite 200, Nassau Bay, Texas. I've called to order. I see that all 7 of us are physically present. Good to see you again, Paul.
Thank you.
So we want to move on. So I want to move to the invocation. Mike?
Everybody, please place yourselves in God's presence. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our city, and we thank you for the ability to live in a country where every citizen has a say in our government and in our future. We please ask that you be with us and help guide the city council to make the right decisions for our city. We also ask you to bless all the city employees, especially all of our first responders, and please keep them all safe as they execute their duty serving our city. In His name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. Just real quickly, Mike, is it official? Are you the chaplain? So just so everyone knows, Mike has actually been very helpful to continue our tradition of having invocation at the beginning of each of the meetings, and he has worked to become and is now the chaplain of the Nassau Bay. So thank you. With that, do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, everybody. It's good to see everybody, and it's also, given how hot it is outside, it's been a hot one. But I want to just keep moving on the agenda. The next area is the citizens' comments and public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to have comments as a citizen, please come up. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Jim, why don't if you would,
Okay.
Oh, Jim.
Okay, sorry.
Name, rank, and serial number.
Thank you so much for letting me speak. I have 2 things for you. I just want to share that the Johnson Space Center on October 14th will be having an open house. It is our first open house since 2018. It goes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And yes, it's the same weekend as Wings Over Houston. I discourage them from doing that, but we are also having a solar eclipse. So we want to invite everyone to come out. Families, there's no registration. You'll enter the gate between 9 and 3 p.m. The eclipse is at 10:58 a.m. There will be a map and a directional signs letting you know where you can drive and also walk to see all the incredible things being done over there. So I encourage everybody in the city of Nassau Bay to join us. And then I would like to respectfully request consideration for the city of Nassau Bay to become one of the sponsors for the inaugural Walter Cunningham Angels Race for Space 5K. And that will be held October 21st at Space Center Houston at 7:30 in the morning. And if you don't know Be an Angel Foundation, it is an organization that assists developmentally disabled and disabled children, either in buying equipment they need to thrive or assisting families in treatment and that type of thing. Dan Pastorini is the chair for that organization, and Walt Cunningham, a Nassau Bay resident, had that as his beloved charity, and his wife asked me to help her organize this. So for $10,000, which I know is a lot, Nassau Bay could become one of the major sponsors for the event and have the city of Nassau Bay shown on all the materials, online, handout, and everywhere else across this race that they will cap at 1,000 runners. So actually families with Be an Angel Foundation will appear, and I know for Hot Funds, Doc Cunningham and a whole lot of people have rooms over at the Hilton, and it's only because I have friends who want to fly down from other places and say, I gotta book a room, who do I talk to? So we've got a lot going on also for $2,000, if that's more amenable. Sponsorship, you could be the front or back of the jersey sponsors and have the city of Nassau Bay. I wanted to present that here before I went to anyone else. I wanted to give y'all the opportunity to do that before I go to City of Webster or Barry Houston Economic Partnership or even our aerospace contractors. But we're really hoping that this being the inaugural year, it will be great. We're working with Space Center Houston. It's only a 5K, and there'll be a kids run, a family run. And as I mentioned, a lot of the families with Being Angel Foundation will also be participating. There'll be a VIP tent for them, and depending on our sponsorship level, we can be a part of that. You also get a number of registers. So at the 10K funding, you'll get 10 runner registrations if you'd like to do that. Or at the 2K, I think you get 5. So hopefully I will see you out there, and we can do that in honor of National Disability Awareness Month. If you guys would like any more information, please contact me. I have sponsorship packets, and I'm more than happy to share those.
Just to dance with you here a little bit, I've already let Zena know, our interim city manager, from the little bit, because this is fresh paint around
Very
this,
fresh paint.
Announcement, but I think there's a lot of willingness to help support,
And,
particularly for a resident of.
oh, absolutely. And Walt passed away at the age of 90 in February. So it's a great honor. In fact, it's a week of events leading up to this. JSC is hosting a tree planting in his honor on Thursday. Friday, there'll be a dinner hosted by Doc Cunningham, his widow, and then the big event on that
Did you
Saturday
have
morning.
these out here for other people or just up here?
I actually just, I
Okay.
printed this for council.
There'll be more later then.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
if anybody would like more information, get a hold of me and I'm happy to share. Thank you very
And
much.
how would they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me by emailing Joyce, Joyce, .Abbey@saic.com. I'd be more than happy to.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Joyce,
That's
Joyce,
the easy part.
.Abbey, ABBEY, @saic.com.
Okay,
And as I mentioned, I'll be presenting this to Barry Houston Economic Partnership, Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, City of Webster, and we'll see who else might be interested, as well as reaching out to our running clubs all across the Bay Area, Clear Lake area, Seabrook, everywhere there's runners. We're gonna try and fill that 1,000 slots up really quick and make it a great event in his honor. Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? Jill?
Thank you all very much. Jim Stoller, being 18-5 Hereford Lane. I'm also going to talk about a special event. Something that I've been planning for long too long. And it's going to be a catalyst and be a fundraiser, awareness raiser for Nassau Bay, and also a fundraiser for the PTSD Foundation of America. Up to 44 veterans today are killing themselves. So this is I've got brochures in front of you for a couple pages. Camp Hope is a non-funded by federal money. All the money goes to the nations. So we're paddling the Monterey out there, joining me from the Nassau Bay HOA. So really have a fun event planned starting at Hilton, going around our peninsula city, going to 2 parks, and then ending up back at the Nassau Bay Yacht Club. Our big challenge is we have it set for the Wings Over Houston Air Show. That's a lot of competition.
That's a big competition.
I reached out to some of the hotels for helping the cost. They said, well, minimum we can do is this because it's so crowded. So I'm asking my captain to ask me for some guidance.
Divine intervention.
Huh?
Divine intervention.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else like to come speak? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. The citizens' comment and public hearing is closed. Next, we'll move to the council member comments. And Paula?
I don't have many comments, just for those that are working through the heat and hot weather and protecting and serving Nassau Bay. Thank you. We appreciate all you've done.
Who's it?
I agree with that for sure. I want to thank the staff for all the work this budget season. Everything has been really good. The way you presented it, it's been fantastic. So thank you. And the long hours that it might take sometimes. And also just a reminder that it's back to school on August 21st with all the kids going back on the 22nd. So it's going to be busy and active again. So stay safe and watch out for the kiddos. That's all I've got.
Jason?
Briefly, Paul, you guys, your road crew is doing a great job. They're doing my street right now, so they've been working steadfast. I do appreciate that. I think it'll be a lot easier right now. Really nice. Also, in terms of the community commission, the amount of people that applied to that, just want to say thanks to everybody that did submit an application. It's good to see a lot of involvement. It's not something that's glorious, we're doing a charter, of course, but it's something that's necessary. It's good to see that there's a lot of people that will get involved. So thank you on that.
Thanks. Nick?
Just want to echo my fellow council members, in relation to all the hard work that, all the work has done. It's been a very hot one out there. There's been a lot of breaks that they've had to deal with late night, dealings. Additionally, want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, 5 p.m., we have a public safety meeting. I'll be here at 5. It's the third Tuesday of every month, so I look forward to those people joining me. And there's a civilian response to active shooter event that's going on August 16th, 9 a.m. to 11 over at Gloria Day. So if you'd like to attend that, be trained up on active shooter, I'm sure they'd enjoy to have everybody there. Thank you.
My day, and I'm not saying I have a paper train calendar, but I think they're just as excited as I am about them going back. I am excited about the Charter Review Commission and maybe hopefully seeing some new faces involved in committees in this neighborhood and in this city. I think it will be great to nerd out on this kind of stuff, so I think that hopefully the good people that are just as into it as I am. That's about it. Great work, Public Works. It's really hot out there, and I'm gonna miss Kirk. He's a great guy.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I want to echo these comments. That's the fun thing about going last is that you get to repeat what everybody said before you. And yeah, it is really awesome, especially those people working out in the heat, our police as well. I'm really excited to see Officer Henderson here to give us an update on code enforcement. It's all over the agenda tonight, so that's kind of exciting. We've been working on that for a long time, and I know everybody on staff is working so hard. And even on the budget, I just want to say for Jaime, somebody told me there was a communication out there that Jaime was just filling in. No, Jaime is our finance director, and I wanted to say he's doing a fantastic job with this budget, along with Cheney and Chief and all the department heads, Tom George, and especially Zena. She stepped in and has done so much these last few months and done such a great job with everything. So I wanted to thank them. And if I left anybody out, I hope I didn't. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say one more thing. I really enjoyed what Joyce had to say, and I really would like to encourage us to support the space program. In case you don't know about the Solar Huge event, you're going to have people coming from all over the world to come out here and look at the solar eclipse. So for us to have our name front and center with that event, I'd like to encourage us to go ahead and go forward and sponsor that event. The other thing is Jim Stoa also, I appreciate that. I want to get with the Parks Committee and see if we can help you out in some way with your events. The other thing is there's a film festival that the city of Nassau Bay sponsors and is run by a citizen of Nassau Bay. So we have so many cool people and wonderful, fantastic citizens that do all these amazing things. That film festival is here at the Hilton, September the 22nd to the 24th. It's the GulfCoastFilmFest.com website. You can go on there and buy tickets. I would encourage everybody to support that. And then they have at the Lakewood Yacht Club, they have a dinner for the award ceremony. It's going to be their 25th anniversary of doing this. So this is another amazing citizen in Nassau Bay who's doing a wonderful project. And we're supporting it here at the city with our tourism fund. So that's all I have to say, and thank you again to Public Works for working so hard out there in the heat.
I'll wrap this up. I've got a couple of comments, and a lot of it goes directly to staff. A lot of good work's been going on. Something that just shows how people step up and are really doing a good job. I do mean people like Jaime. Jaime, I really enjoyed the budget workshops that you put together. You've enabled us to really get in front of it where we have extra time, I believe, to really look at things. The other is a name you don't hear very much, but she's sitting here all the way to the left, which is Lacey. If you look on our agenda, we have 11 minutes that are going to be approved in the consent agenda, and that catches us up for the first time since June 2. We had a huge gap. I think we were missing minutes since June 22 when Paul McClarty first came on here, and they have, between Zena and Lacey, they have worked to catch us up, and that is a big legal responsibility. As a counselor here will tell that record and that reflection and that we had that gap was something that I really appreciate that was done. But at the same time, Paul, I don't know how you guys keep doing it, but I see they're starting to work on the concrete out there heading towards the ballpark. It looks like they've got it laid for the not only the baseball field there, but also for the pickleball. So it looks really good. And I don't know if people know, I even talked to Paul today, that we were noticing small bait fish out in the cove. We have a fish kill. I'm going to just guess it at about 500 fish. They're real small ones. The birds have pretty much eaten them all up. But I went out, I let Paul know, and looked at the lake. That's the oversight that Paul and his team does with the aerators. They also, about a week and a half ago, started to put the effluent from our water treatment plant in there, that we get fresh, cool water going into that, which means our Lake Nassau does not have nearly the conditions like we do just out on the cove. And that's deep water, folks. And that's how hot it is out there. And it's because of that type of oversight and that type of knowledge and experience that, we don't have some of the things we ran into the past, 10 years ago or so. That was really bad. In any event, I also am very excited, the last meeting without a permanent city manager. Nathan Bird is going to be in Zena's chair come September 11th. And I plan to have a town hall meeting during that week, because I personally believe that was one of the most open processes that involved more people in the community. And I think we have a fairly unity candidate from all aspects to come in. And I want to continue that openness and participation. So we've got the budget requirement is by October 1st, but I think we have to have it finished by September 22nd. And I want people to have a good see on that for the community. So if there's any other modifications, any other things that we need to do, that the citizens have the ability to speak to it. And so stay tuned between the week of the 11th and the 17th, date to be determined. Okay. Got to give a shout out to code enforcement. I do believe the RV at Arafat's is gone. I believe that there are cars that have been taken off the site. Great job. I know it's on the agenda later, but with some of the neighborhood watch, had an opportunity to go inside the Jameson property. I've been very pleased with that progress, but there'll be more on that. And just the whole control over unregistered STRs has just taken a turn for the better. So you got to give a shout out when it's determined, when it's deserved. As we talk about the heat, I really want to emphasize something. People have a hurricane plan, please. My wife and I have been victims where we've had 3 feet of water in the house. It's not fun without a plan. So if you're, I'm hearing that the water temperatures out in the Gulf are the highest ever. That does not bode well if one comes heading towards us. So please have a plan. We can't do anything for Mother Nature, but we sure can be as prepared can be. So September 1 to September 30th is rush hour for our area for hurricanes, and that's why I wanted to make sure there's a high degree of visibility. I know the folks in emergency response are very aware of this, but I want the citizens to be aware. And then other than that, James said something, mentioned about the active shooter training at Gloria Day. I'm really pleased to see that's Bay Police Department reaching out to help one of our schools in the neighborhood and the Ushers Corps and things like that at Gloria Day. So I really appreciate that too. And with that, I'll move on. City Manager's report.
And
Zena?
so we will move on with the police department. They'll be presenting first. Sorry. Police department will be presenting the police department monthly report.
Mayor and council, citizens. For July, the police department responded to 378 calls for service. 64 reports were generated, 214 traffic stops, 109 citations. There were 149 written verbal warnings, 29 arrests, 15 of those were misdemeanors, 18 code enforcement issues were taken care of last month, and Officer Henderson will address that here in a little bit. We had 6,376 patrol miles, an average response time of 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So a couple of recognitions, or several recognitions. Officer Jacob Warrenson celebrated his 3-year anniversary of Nassau APD on August the 10th. Officer CJ Kreider is in the room with us, received his intermediate police officer certification from Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, otherwise known as TCOL. CJ has been with the police department for about 2 years and had a total of almost 2.5 years in law enforcement. He's got a total of 2,793 training hours. So Officer Ben Bedford, who's not with us because he works nights, received his sexual assault and violence investigator certification from TCOL. SAVIC is a special training designed to prepare officers to investigate and handle sexual assault and family violence cases. Officer Bedford has been with Nassau Bay PD for about 6 months, and he has about 3.5 years of law enforcement experience with 4,029 training hours. I'm going to brag on the department a little bit. The Nassau Bay Police Department received the 2022 Bronze Award from Lexipol Connect Recognition Program for excellence in online training management. This is an award we did not know was coming to us. Awards are based on policy and training. There's 3 policy metrics reviewed, are policy issues, updates pending, and training bulletins issued, while 4 training metrics are reviewed, including average hours of training assigned to the officers, average training hours of training completed, their user activity, and external training ratio. Nassau Bay continues PD to work with Lexipol to improve our policies and our training for our department. And that's been a big push since I got here to increase the training for the officers. And real quickly, on the SDR, staff received a product demo from GovOS on term room management product that they have. We were very impressed with the overall. It was myself, Officer Henderson, Tony Russo, Jaime Vasquez, and the representatives are scheduling additional meetings with us, between us and their, so that we can begin onboarding and set up of the product. And this product is going to help identify the short terms that are out there that are being utilized, but that we don't have registered. They call it scraping, and then they'll also utilize wellness with no administrative aspect, and also tracking the probable hot taxes that should be generated from there. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Sorry. I just had a quick question. 2 things. One have to do with the investigator assignment and clears.
Yes, sir.
That was presented. We're running at about 36% clearance, it looks like, for July on cases assigned. And for the year, we're looking at about 35%. I'm wondering what the status, why we're at that percentage.
That's actually about average for clearance on investigations. A lot of the cases that are investigated are property crimes, and there's just not enough information there to follow up.
Okay.
So,
And one last question. I believe back in May, there was a request that was made for the staffs, crime staffs from the park that were, I think, a couple years running.
right, that's on my desk, trying to coordinate them all together with everything else going on. But I had not forgot about myself. I'll get it to you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Do one more.
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking through the.
Apparently I can't move fast enough.
So I'm looking through the stats, and I know you mentioned that certified in sexual assault, but I saw that there was several emergency detentions or Methodist, along with either suicide attempts or gone through with suicide. What is the staff's training with regard to mental health?
Mental health officers, that's a requirement by the state.
I would say it's like an annual thing, like are they constantly going through this?
Yes, it's a requirement by the state for the officers to have mental health training. So, and a lot of the EDOs, the emergency detention orders that are over at the hospital are requested by the hospital. So they request us to come out there. They're not necessarily generated by us. These are patients that are either brought into the hospital on their own or they're brought in from another city. And once they're there, the staff has determined that they're a danger to themselves. So, but they need an officer to fill out the emergency detention order by law. So, when we go over there, take care of that for them.
Just to add clarity there, Chief, I mean, Methodist is the center target for mental health for the whole area. That comes and brings people in to be evaluated for those, for what you described.
They are one of any of the hospitals in the area. Methodist is actually, not a true mental health hospital. They do have to treat those patients, but, no, St. Joseph's up in downtown Houston is the mental health hospital. But when they're here in this area, that's where they end up.
That's where they end up.
Can I ask you a question about that too? I did have somebody tell me that there was a homeless person out, and in this heat, I think people were concerned that they were gonna, have a really bad medical condition. What's our policy on taking care of those homeless people? Do they automatically go into the mental health facility, or what? What do you guys normally do?
If they're homeless,
Yes, and they're.
no, if they're
And they're hanging out like by the CVS or the hotel?
no, the officers, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's not against the law to be homeless. So, the officers will, if they get called, they'll, meet with those people, they will offer them services. I know some of the officers have tended to make arrangements in some of the facilities. Sometimes there's no beds available. I won't say against my wishes, but I know some of the officers have paid for our hotel rooms at their own pockets. The only time they're gonna go to the hospital for an EDO versus detention is in cases where the officers can determine that this person is a danger to themselves or somebody else.
I think people worry about being out in the heat, and that, it could be a fatality of somebody out in this heat like that. I don't know, it was a concern, I think it was valid.
It is, and we do what we can to, but there's usually surprises in the road that refuse it help.
Chief, if I have a request, I actually brought up, it was a person outside the CVS. I was the one that brought that to the attention of Officer Velazquez. Now, I was told that the police were aware of that individual, but they float in and out of the mental health ward over there in our city. I'm just curious because it's been more regular recently, for being up there. And so I'm just curious if we have any plans besides just what is there
I have a suggestion here. Just I might intervene just a little bit as we're to create a 501c3 called Nova Vita. And it is geared specifically to the needs of the mental health in Nassau Bay and the surrounding area, because we've seen this with Methodist being that kind of a center and people coming there. If we have people like that, I would highly suggest, I think Zena has done has met with them originally, initially. And from that standpoint, we have the beginning of a infrastructure to be able to help people there through the leadership of Gloria Day. So I would highly, look into Nova Vita, and because they're geared, to give not only resources to help, but also to get to the people who have resources, to put them up in housing.
the reason why I appreciate that and Mary's great volunteer to coordinate with you on that, to be involved in that with them. I would like to highlight the 2 motels that we have in the episode, and there was actually a suicide last month. And this has been going on, since council. So
It hits home very closely, as many of you know, in my.
yes, I know. And so this is, I think that we have an obligation for public safety and mental health. I think that's part of public safety too. So I would like to see us do more, so I need to jump in on that. I'll reach out to the pastor.
Yeah, Pastor Randy is the pastor, and I didn't know if people here in the audience, the citizens, know that that's been an initiative of Gloria Day, and they're putting significant finances and resources behind to be able to have an organization tailored for the mental health of the community. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, so I know we're talking about mental health, suicide, public safety. I noticed in here, one of the reports, he said there was an attempted suicide overdose on fentanyl. Does each officer have that narcan to them? And do they know how to administer that?
You should, yes.
You should, or?
They're not, so.
It's on
sorry.
the way from our.
We're working on policy and getting that here. At times, even us have it available, and in consultation with Chief Doyle, his previous recommendation to us was not to carry it in the car because of the humidity and the expiration. But we have now started, sergeants are now working on getting that here and getting a policy in place for the officers to have that on.
Yeah, the small amount.
Yeah.
There's a pharmacy down in Vermont that actually gives it away for free. And I recommend that they can obtain that from their very helpful group. They've been doing that for quite some time now.
Right. We're sourcing that through the departments. So, okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Give it time to make sure.
All right, good evening, citizens council, staff. Your volunteer fire department for the month of July ran 39 calls and had 1,674 man hours, and we stand at 38 numbers. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Quick question. Don't leave. Get out.
No, yeah, what you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, because again, I've had a lot of concerns, especially with the elderly people in Nassau Bay. I didn't know if you had seen like an increase in people having problems with heat exhaustion or anything with this heat going on. People are concerned about that.
Yeah, not out of the ordinary. You know, you look at the stats, the types of calls we're running, medical is our number one, but I wouldn't say anything attributed to the heat
Okay, that's good news. Thank
as
you.
far as out of the ordinary.
I think people are just concerned that there might be some elderly people that are locked in and don't have access to.
Yeah, I would say definitely, be aware. Like we always encourage, whether the heat is here, or whatever the case may be, aware. And if you know somebody, reach out to them, especially if they live alone. And feel free to share the knowledge you have. You know, we hear it on the news and pass that information along to someone who may not have the ability to get that information. You know, the signs of heat exhaustion, what they need to do to prevent it, those types of things. So we definitely encourage that community participation to help us all out.
And I was thinking, Zena, it might be a good idea for us to maybe have some kind of alert about the heat and let anybody know if they need help. You know, they're locked in and they don't have electricity or something happens. Especially if they're elderly, they're able to have assistance from the city, because it is really bad right now. Thank you so much.
I should have asked this before, but if you do come across somebody like that, what do you do?
As a general citizen, I definitely say if you're coming across someone you think is having some type of medical condition, definitely get help. Call 911. If it is, you believe it is heat related, doing things that can try to get them cool. I wouldn't encourage, trying to move somebody to hurt yourself in that process, but if you can easily get them to a place where it's cool, especially if they can still walk and they're just kind of disoriented, definitely do that, get them the air conditioning, get them some water. But definitely calling 911.
Somebody out of Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I have one more comment. We had there's a resident who reached out to me about trying to find a way to do a check-in system for elderly residents. And so I was gonna run that by the special events committee just for some out-of-the-box ideas, thinking about it before the new city manager comes. And I might talk tomorrow just to bring up that same idea, but a way to check in on people who, especially if they live alone in these kind of weather conditions and everything else that's going on, just to, her idea was that they register and then they have to check in every day, and if they don't check in every day, then they can go off of what they're saying, hey, I want to go off our call if I don't check in. So something along those lines or something else, but throwing that around. But just an idea.
Yeah, definitely.
I think from the fire department's perspective, we look to partner with the city for something like that, so we could definitely.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I was gonna ask, one question. Kind of request that you add nautical miles to the report, since y'all are new or captain.
Yeah, we need to talk about how we would track that. I think we would have to probably look at just odometer readings, so it'd be nautical miles, you need for the boat. Yeah, okay. Just the boat, not the, because they report, the police department reports. miles per hour.
1.25.
Yeah.
I just like to see because I know that it's being captured by the volunteer fire department.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and do either miles or hours or something like that.
So then, I'm sorry, I have to ask you one more question, I almost forgot. So when I was driving in, Point Lookout, I noticed how the grass is so dry everywhere. Are you guys monitoring to see if like there's any possible, dangerous situations or possible brush fire? There was that brush fire in Houston last night, and I thought about it, when I was driving down. And is there anything that you would recommend to us or to the citizens that we could do to try to prevent something like that from happening here?
Definitely not saying this is joking, man. Definitely keeping ignition sources away from that combustible material, right? So we don't monitor, to answer your original question, outside of anything that the state's doing from a burn ban perspective. We are generally aware of where those problem areas lie in the city, like where we have big patches, and we train to figure out how we would attack that should this event occur. But no, we're not doing any additional monitoring outside of what the state's doing, but definitely encouraging residents to just be aware. And even, in our normal, when we're not having this heat wave, if you see smoke coming and you might look at it and go, oh yeah, someone's barbecuing, maybe just doing that extra vigilance now to say, really what's going on here.
The only place I saw was the cypress trees right there next to the basketball pavilion. Those trees look like they're very, very dry.
Yeah.
Very dry.
Okay, I got one for you. I know you guys mentioned that you do boat patrols and a lot of your calls are for medical services. How often do you guys run into medical issues in your bill with boat patrols?
Yeah, I don't think we had any on our record this month or even last year. Yeah. Definitely.
And just real quick, just so everyone knows, is that at the start of the heat wave, early on, it was in May, I made the request that we post on the city website, being able to be aware of any heat-related illness that you might have with that, and then also locations for the cooling centers through the commissioner's court.
Thanks,
Matt. All good conversations, keeping us all aware of what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Paul?
Evening, Mayor, Council, residents. So the heat advisory, gonna give a big shout out to my guys there, the troopers. This round is super hard. You can walk a dog and sweat about 5 pounds off in about 2 minutes. So my guys are doing really good. Glad to announce that the water and sewer project's almost done. We've got about 2 more manholes to rehab, and it's completed as a $2.5 million project. Street project, we've completed 26 areas of 30. The sidewalk expansion, David Braun, the contractor have mobilized there. And on the water leaks, for the month of July, we had 3, and now we're averaging about 2 to 3 a week. And it's all lines, nothing new. So we're happy to see that. The new lines are holding really good. And also the irrigation repairs have increased. We are monitoring, we're looking at all the irrigation. In fact, we replaced all the batteries today. So we've increased irrigation. We're looking at the palm trees, make sure they're good. We're looking at the cypress trees, oak trees. So everything that we've got one person dedicated, Robert is helping on that. So we're trying to keep it really good on that. We've increased the irrigation times also. We were able to jet 500 feet of sanitary sewer, keep the sewer capacity good. And as David Braun transitioned into LED park lights, and so we replaced 6 of them, and so we'll replace them as they go out. We've got to reinvest in all that stuff. And then happy to announce we're going to be starting the bid process here in a couple months it's going to replace the major water line from Saturn on NASA Ollie to Hilton. That's gonna be from a 10-inch to a 12-inch line, and that project's $985,000. And so we'll start, wrapping this one up and going to another big one, but we're super happy about that. It's gonna increase the pressure and capacity down to the west end. And, I have been speaking with the Texas Parks and Wildlife, have a good contact, I shared information on our lake. We're putting about, I'd say about 200,000 gallons of effluent into the lake. And so the DO, the dissolved oxygen levels have increased, so that, I've had, weekly conversations with them, and I believe last week there was 4 fish kills in Galveston County in 1 day. So, we're doing really good. And I have nothing like that here.
Just interrupt, Paul. If you remember, Mike Barrett also put like 3, to just luck of being at the right place at the right time with Texas Parks and
Yes.
Wildlife. There's like 3,000 extra fish
Yes.
in that pond, so that we're not getting a fish kill. You and your guys are doing a great job. Just really a great job.
And then one was, Mayor mentioned was aeration. We're gonna look at trying to put a big aerator on the Martinique side. We just like the one on by Founders Park. I think about a week and a half ago, we dispatched 3 more big pumps and we started turning over the lake. So when we see the levels drop, we'll start dispatching our big pumps. And we just received our backup pump for a stormwater project, last week and a half ago. So we're pretty excited to see what that's gonna do. So, and that's for floodwater. So, we're really busy. Animal control is max capacity. Troy is been trying to care for the dogs, so we're pretty busy.
Paul, like that, so the generator for the flooding, the diesel generator?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that came in?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, the 6-inch, we received that a couple months ago, but we did use that. This one is a backup generator for the stormwater auxiliary, power. And that's, hydraulic, pump, so we're pretty excited for that.
Awesome.
Are all the aerators currently working on the lake?
Yes,
Okay, because there was one that was out for a while. Is there one that's out?
the small one at the entrance of the park to the right.
Okay.
Uh,
And I was gonna say, I really like the idea of that aerator over by Martine. I know they get some pretty stagnant water over there, especially when we're not getting any rain and things like that. I know we had that algae bloom, I think, pretty recently.
12 years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
12 years ago,
Yeah,
2010.
right. And but the recently there was.
Yeah, there was.
And it cleared up pretty quick. That means that it cleared up like by 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
But we do monitor that, 7 days a week. On the weekends, the wastewater operators do monitor that and take dissolve to do that.
and if you walk over that bridge by, at the end of Point Calvert, after, it's totally dry, that really, I lived here 10 years, so I haven't seen it very many times, I'm sure I've seen it before. But thank you.
And also, Paul, you forgot to say that you repainted the lines in David Ron Park for the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those look
But
really
it
good.
was gonna be
Parking
painted, it
lot
looks
and
really
the
nice,
miles
where you
around,
can
yes.
read the slow speed test. Did you, do you have any feedback on all that dry grass there about it? I mean, are we putting water out in the dry grass in the park? Do you think it's dangerous? A fire hazard or anything like that? What do you think? I haven't seen it before, maybe you have.
Yeah, we've increased, everything, as far as the irrigation. I think sometimes it's every day. But one thing that we're trying to monitor is we are one threshold below having to go to a water drought stage 1. So I think all the surrounding cities are at drought and we're not. And so we're making sure we don't get, we're doing everything we can, irrigation, fixing lines, just adding water.
The other thing too, I think you didn't mention, but we talked about it in the budget meeting, was adding that water pressure changes our rating with the fire department, right? Do you want to explain that a little bit to everyone? Because I think that's kind of important.
Yes,
What you're doing with that.
yes, so, we received bids on, I think, 1 pump, maybe 2, increasing the pump at the water plant, which is gonna increase pressure, coming out of the water plant, but we're also going to replace, I think it's an 8-inch line, and we're gonna go to 12, coming right out there. That's gonna help a whole lot, and then when we do from the 10 to the 12, And then we're gonna do two tie-ins, coming down to feed the west side of town. Instead of just one, we'll have probably about 30. So we're looking at that really close. We wanna increase pressure and help the ISO region, rating, so we're, and we did a lot of work.
Just so people know, the ISO is insurance ratings, so we currently have an ISO rating of 2, and we just made it this year. The hard work that, everybody from the fires. So the 2 areas that are in our control that can help make sure we don't go below the threshold, and we are a hair just over, is increasing our water pressure, which Paul's taking care of. And then the other is getting a ladder truck. Our risk with all the homes that have gone up and the taller multi-level buildings have lowered the rating that we get for mutual aid and the credit there. So that's going to be an issue that we have coming up that we're going to talk about at the town hall so this is, and if anybody's seeing your water pressure in your house be a little bit low, you just might see a stronger shower.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you. Well, yes, thanks, Jamie. Jamie, been working with a lot of, we have one Parks employee that started today, named Robert, and we have an acceptance letter that was accepted. And then we have another one that's in background, so we're hoping to have 2 more new employees on the water line repair crew. And so after that, then Shane will probably be happy. So,
Great job.
thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Amy?
Evening, Council, Mayor. Today I'm going to give you an update on the FY24 budget. So we've had 4 budget workshops, and we tentatively have scheduled another workshop for August 22nd. And the updated budget calendar for August 22nd, we have another budget workshop. For August 28th, we got the proposed budget presentation. That will be a special meeting. August 29th through September 5th. We'll schedule any additional workshops as needed to finalize the budget. On September 11th, we have a public hearing and adopt the budget. And we'll also present all true and taxation items, unused collection rate, excess debt amount, and prior refunds. And that will be at a regular meeting. And on September 25th, we'll have a public hearing and adopt the tax rate. That will be a special meeting. So for the general fund, which is the operating budget, so property taxes, we're still waiting on the certified value. Should be ready by end of August. We received an estimated value as of July. As of right now, it's $854 million. That's an increase of 12% or so. Total reserves for fiscal year 24 budget, we're anticipating $1.8 million. That's a total of 104 days reserves. It will be $1.6 million. So we'll have excess reserves of $249,000. So that's 14 days of reserves. Our maintenance and operations daily requirement to run the city for FY24 will be $17,500. That's a total of 6.4 and M&O expenditures. The general fund account, code enforcement officer, the department budget for that code enforcement officer position is $73,000. Projects being considered for funding in the general fund. So we're still considering funding for here. We'll finalize that once we receive our certified values and we do our tax setting process. So we're thinking about replacing 12. This will be a multi-year effort. $75,000 for this upcoming fiscal year. Replace the phone callers on the fireboat, $40,000. Records management, that's inventory destruction of off-site storage, $22,000. We need to start saving for the new city hall. That's about $250,000. So about 7 years remaining life on the current unit. We'll set aside about $42,000 from FY24 to FY29. The flock system, that's $50,000. That includes installation and first year maintenance subscription. Ongoing costs will be $40,000. And the final item is the additional concrete for 28 Leeward. estimates around 15,000 to 20,000. So that's total projects, that we're considering funding for, 249,000. The water sewer fund. So we did a forecast for FY '24. So we wanted to get a good idea of what our total reserves will be in the water sewer funds we plan accordingly. So we did a scenario where we said, all right, we're not gonna do any capital expenditures for this time frame, just to see where our total reserves would be. So based off of that scenario, our total reserves, if we didn't have any capital expenditures from FY '24 to FY '29 would be $6.7 million. Of that, of course, you have about 360 that's restricted to our debt service. And then we have a 45-day reserve of about 384,000. So that leaves about $6 million in excess reserves in the water sewer fund. As a result of the fund being in a position of strength, council is considering issuing a 10-year certificate of obligation for $3.8 million to fund the following projects. The Southeast Transmission Line Project, which supplies water to the city, is $1.5 million. Begin phase 2 of the Water Distribution Line Project, which is $2.3 million. That's approximately 20,080 linear feet, approximately 4 miles of distribution lines. Debt service payments will increase from $346,000 in FY '23 to a range of $596,000 to $800,000 for FY '24 to '31. COVID funds, as Paul said earlier, we have $986,000 in COVID funds. We'll be using that to replace an existing 10-inch water line, approximately 5,200 linear feet. A new 12-inch water line on Nassau Parkway between Upper Bay Road and Lakeside Lane, and the replacement of the existing 8-inch water line with 570 linear feet of new 12-inch water line on Point Lookout Drive. And then the following projects will be cash flow. So that's in addition to what I mentioned earlier. So the water tower painting in FY '25 for $500,000. FY '24 to '26, we plan to cash flow the 4 sewer main line, $750,000. And then we plan to fund the remaining Southeast Transmission Line payments of $1.5 million. So that's total CIP projects of $7.5 million. Moving on. We did receive news.
That was great.
Okay. So we did receive news from the Clear Lake City Water Authority. They provide our water, that there will be increasing the cost of water by 20%. So to service the 10-year certificate of obligation and to offset the water cost increase, council anticipates increasing the water and sewer rates by implementing the current FY '25 and '27 rates in FY '24. So the rates that we're going to have in FY '25, we're going to bring them up a year to FY '24. The FY '24 5.8 meter base rate fee for residential will remain unchanged from FY '23, and will be increasing the base rate fee for multifamily from $14 to $16 in FY '24. So in addition to moving up the FY '25 rate to FY '24, council anticipates increasing the commercial water rate to $14.59. For the biggest users, they consume the most water and they put the most pressure on our system. So we're going to continue placing most of the burden on them. So by implementing these changes, the city can continue to invest and improve in its water and wastewater systems. Debt service fund. So currently we have 4 certificates of obligation of the debt service fund. So for FY '24, total debt service payments will be $993,000, $855,000 will be principal, and 138 interest payments. The debt will be funded primarily by the following: $436,000 in property taxes. Other funding sources will be $163 from the conference center lease revenue, $359 from the redevelopment authority, and the remaining will be from the Nassau Area Management District. The tourism fund, we're currently reviewing submitted hot fund proposals. All applicants must detail their event and its projected impact on local tourism, and applicants will be selected for funding based on their ability to meet the guidelines and set forth in the Texas tax code and city policy. For the special revenue and grant fund, the 2 big ticket items is finalize the 2018 FEMA Elevation Grant. That's 6 homes. And then as of right now, the 2022 FEMA Elevation Grant is pending approval from FEMA. We hope to hear something in September. If that is approved, that will, there's 19 homes in that grant. And that's a total of $5.87 million. $5 million 5 million is federal, and 870,000 is local share. And for the capital projects fund, so in previous fiscal years, we've had projects that we funded. And in some cases, we had savings, in cases those projects didn't occur. So we've had savings being accumulated in the projects, the capital projects fund. So we're gonna put those savings to work. So the PD interceptor, out of the capital projects fund, we're gonna fund PD interceptor that replaces Unit 4. The funding for that PD interceptors will come out of the fleet sales proceed account for $53,820, and the remaining amount will be from interest revenue that we earned for $21,000. A thermal imager for the E82, $10,000. We'll fund that based on savings on prior year projects in the fire EMS account. The Axon body camera and in-car, year 3 of 5 payment, $42,000. The funding will be savings on prior year projects in the police account. MDTS replacement, we'll be getting 10 of those. This will be year 1 of 4 for $62.50. The funding will be coming out of prior year projects, savings that we had in the IT account. And then we're going to paint the exterior station garage doors, $8,000. The funding will come out of the facilities account. And that'll all be out of the capital projects fund. So none of this will be coming out of the general fund. And the certificate of obligation 2023 or 2024, the remaining projects are stormwater line repair improvements. That'll be $250,000 to $500,000, depending on how much Paul will get done this year. Stormwater SCADA monitoring system, we got about $38,000 left. Stormwater backup power, about $270,000, and replacement ambulance for $285,000. And the last fund, the street maintenance sales tax fund. This funding source for this fund is sales tax from F1, from fiscal year 2003 to fiscal year 2022. We received $2.5 million for this fund from sales tax. And if we add FY23 projections and the FY24, that will bring us up to 2.59 in sales tax that's funding this fund. For FY23 projections, we're on pace to spend $1.1 million on the current. For FY24, we'll have $350,000 remaining available to spend on any additional street projects for existing city streets only. That's all. Any questions? I know that was kind of fast and furious.
I think that was particularly important for the citizens. That's the work you've done. And the piece that I'm really proud of this council, and also really proud for our city, is that with the water fund and the decisions that we made there, I think you heard Heidi say, you know, if we didn't do any capital project, we'd have an excess of $6 million. So that was primarily generated from our commercial district rather than our residents for the first time, basically our, you know, for that I even know. I don't want to say in our history because that's maybe an incorrect statement, but it is truly enabling us to do the work to finish off all the problems we're seeing with our infrastructure for our water system. The budget in particular, Paul, you mentioned we completed about 4 miles of linear water lines this go around. We're matching that this time. Again, to see a purpose, and we should have another 4 miles of linear feet of line done over the next 12 to 15 months, which should really do about 90% of what all needs to be done. We will have newer infrastructure than League City, but that's the intent of this council. So we're trying.
Great job.
Great job.
I'd just like to reiterate, a newer infrastructure means less maintenance work. And in my mind, when you have to continually do maintenance on old product, it's a waste of money. So the fact that we're getting so much new infrastructure is really awesome. The second thing I wanted to say is Clear Lake City Water has increased our rates 20%, and we're working really hard to keep residential water rates down. But difficult when our suppliers, in 1 year increased 20%. So,
The other thing we're doing is we're getting smarter outfits that have the largest impact on our open and be able to create the funds to get us out of this jam so Paul's guys don't have to do. We're down to what, 6 a month maybe, but it used to be 10 to 12 breaks a month. We just can't do that. I'm with you. It's throwing.
expensive.
I thought was really awesome that Paul and Heidi came up with is that they want to try to put in a smart meter reading system, which they're going to look at getting a grant for that, because there are grants out where you can get the whole thing. I think the mayor mentioned that there are even people that will help you implement this whole system, and that would free up a lot of the staff for Paul, so we're really hoping to get that done as well, and that was something that's, it can't be in the budget because it's not guaranteed, but it's something that they're going to be working towards.
All I know is that was a mouthful of things you're doing, Jaime, so that's, thank you very much. Any other questions? Code enforcement, I believe.
Does everybody know Officer Henderson?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was asking Chief if you have been introduced to the citizens of the community.
Yes.
Okay.
Officer Henderson with the Police Department. Council, Mr. Mayor, citizens. This is a summary of, since this little project's been in effect, it's been about 3.5, 4 weeks. And I'm splitting my time between patrol and code enforcement. Between calls, I'll patrol the city, see if I can see anything amongst getting complaints via emails coming from Zena, coming from Chief Cromie, that's come in through the internet submission that they have. We've had a lot of success, I believe. Start off with AirFat. As much as we'd like to take credit for that, I think it was a lot of coincidental. Officers go over there and check on the RVs, and just word on the street that he's gotten word that he's being talked about. But the RV is gone. There is 6 cars as of yesterday that we saw being removed through wreckers and being driven off. I came by here once today on the way here, and there was another one gone, so there's a total of 7 that's gone. I do all know that all the signage soliciting inspections and car repair are now off the building. We sent people over there to try to get an inspection to see what longer does them. And he is personally no longer working on cars. So word on the street is he's be closing up and he'll be out of here by the end of the month. I had heard.
Really?
Yeah. From him, he said that he was either going to renovate the building and try to lease it out as a clinic or something, or he may sell it, but all of the car repair is gone. I got a number of calls and emails from the Sapphire Apartments, a lot of them pertaining to mold, a lot of them roofs caving in. We've gone over there a couple of times and done walkthroughs. We need to get our building department to have an engineer come out and inspect some of that stuff. There's a lot of holes in the sheetrock where they've been replacing plumbing. You can tell the plumbing is new, but all of the 3rd floor roof had caved in on the upper bay side and flooded about 3 apartments. We made an inspection of that the other day, just to follow up to make sure the citizens were okay. They have repaired them. There's been a lot of improvements over there. If you've noticed, they've resurfaced and restriped and put down for the parking lots. The first 2, they're in the process of finishing the back parking lot. There's been a lot of tire tracks out from them pulling out off of the asphalt. I made contact with the new manager. The old manager's gone. She said that when they finish the 3rd parking lot in the back, we'll come out, pressure wash San Sebastian and Upper Bay to get those marks off the street. Short-term rentals, Chief already mentioned that we had a meeting with the software company, which is going to be a huge help for us. I think they're going to start doing training in the next couple of weeks, so we'll learn how to use the software more. I would probably identify 95% of all the STRs in the city. a lot of them has come from citizens. They flagged me down, hey, did you know this was there? They've actually provided me pictures of trash that's been built up, a lot of cars that's been parked. So all of those people have been notified, except for 3 that have had trouble, that they're either owned by a trust or they're owned by an investment company. So I have to penetrate that layer of ownership to find an individual so that citations can be issued to. So they've been identified, but we don't know who the owner is at this time, but when we dig deeper, we will find them. There was a lot, I found 8 short-term rentals at the Bay House. It was actually the owner of the Bay House that designated 2 of the interior buildings for his SDRs. I actually betrayed a client, and I got him on to text me back and forth. I let him know who we were, what we were doing, that he was in violation of city ordinance for not having permits. I told him he either needed to take them off the platform, or there was citations that would be following the next day that could be up to $2,000. That afternoon, they were all pulled off the platform.
That was a day.
Right. Another big win, I think, where the graffiti happened at 2502 Dolphin. The guy called me the week after. Lacey had mailed him. I wrote a citation. She mailed him a summons. He got it in the mail. He was from Fort Worth. He says, "Are you really going to give me this ticket?" I'm like, "Did you really operate without a STR?" "Absolutely. It's not going away." I know that the management company was in the process of getting a permit, but as of Saturday, when I drove by, there was a real estate agent putting a sign that the house is now for sale and it is off the platform.
Yep.
So I think that was a
I
big
saw
one.
the same thing.
Business registrations, that's part of what I was trying to identify businesses. There's on record about 458. My guess is that's half of what's in the city. A year and a half ago, when I pulled the numbers, it was about 650. So I don't know how it really changed by 200. But being that Methodist is in there with all the doctor's offices, I know there's more, because each individual doctor's office and clinic is its own separate business. So we're trying to figure out how to do that with the support of Chief Cromie, Zena, Tony, and myself. We're trying to get a team together so that we can start going into each one of these businesses, identifying who the owners are, what they're doing, make sure they have their COs, their permits, and they're paying taxes if it's needed. So that's our next big practice.
CO being certificate of occupancy.
Yes. Just the regular code enforcement, other things. 1802 Blanchmont was a hot topic there for a while. I tagged the car, I tagged the house. The car has been sitting there for a number of years. There was a broken front window where we could see that there was homeless people going in and out. I found multiple syringes, stuff in, tagged it. The next week, they were in compliance. The window was fixed, the car was gone. I just recently tagged 18333 Cape Bahamas for grass and 3 junk Mercedes that are sitting out there. So this week they'll be getting their letter so we can go forward with enforcement of that. 1300 Space Park behind McDonald's. There's a parking lot there that is actually the overflow for the building, the office building. I made contact with that owner. He was aware people were parking there, but he wasn't aware it was junk cars. I tagged the cars. Out of 6 I tagged, 3's been moved. And he is going to be back within the month to put signage up so we can start towing cars and enforcing it there at his expense because he's private property. 718 Martinique with the bamboo. I made contact with him. He lived in Georgia. Was with Paul. We went back and forth. The chips of the bamboo was getting in the pond, getting in the filters, going to clog it up. Called him and told him that he needed to have it removed. He said, "Anything, like, that's not a city name. It came from your property. So either move it or there'll be citations issued because I found you. I know where you live. I can send it to you." The next day, it was moved. Let's see. Got another call last week about the Sandy Cove that was sunk. I went out there yesterday. It is indeed sunk. It's been there for at least 2 years. Couldn't read the TX number on the side, but Officer Linder had sent letters in the past before COVID. They acknowledged it was theirs. Some lady who lives in Nassau Bay is the brother that owns the property. There's a trailer on the property and a sailboat that needs to be removed because it's code violation. So I'm gonna get with Corporal Linder this week and try to get that documentation, so I know how to reach out to them and tell them it's been 1.5 years, it's time to move. I did call the Coast Guard yesterday to see if they could not, only if people were involved. All the other houses that's been tagged for grass, I think there was 4, everybody is in compliance. Then this next week, I'll be working with Cicely to train me on the MyGov, so I can start reporting it correctly.
That was absolutely, wait, hold on. That was absolutely phenomenal. I do have a question for you. So, I think a lot of people don't, not everybody knows you, I think as an officer, because you're really popular in the neighborhood. I know Chief, you had gone to class for this code enforcement. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Did you get certifications from that for code enforcement, and what happened at that class that you were able to bring back to the city?
Yeah, Chief Cromie sent me to Galveston in January. It was a 1-week class that taught us all of the Texas statutes that we have to follow legally. We have our own ordinances, but we actually follow, everything is governed by the state.
As well, you have to do the state as well as our.
So at the completion of the class, you take a test, you get certified. So
you have a code enforcement certification. And I just saw in the budget how we have the permanent code enforcement, a high recommendation for you to fill that position after that report. The other question I have for you is, I think a lot of people don't know, but you're also a deputy fire marshal here, or a fire marshal here in Nassau Bay. Is that correct? I thought I heard that.
The city of Nassau Bay holds my commission because I'm the deputy fire marshal underneath Tony Russo. As I came from Pasadena, I was an arson investigator there.
So the city's already holds your license for being, so you are already a deputy
Yeah,
city?
it is.
Okay,
And
okay, because that has something to do, as I understand it, with code enforcement. Eventually, we're going to be incorporating some of those things. Because I was saying, okay, why can't we get some of these things done? And a lot of those, I understand, are building, but you guys are working as a team to get that and pull it together. I think that's what you just said, right?
Right. And Chief Cromie sends me to each October to Pasadena at their fire marshal convention, so I can get my continuing education so that my license stays current.
That's fantastic.
And for doing that while you're still doing patrol, I'm just phenomenal job.
This is something I want to say here too, is, Chief's kind of parting the water for this. He's, right now we're going down 1 guy or a half a guy in order to be able to do this. We've got it posted to be able to replace that. But I think what you're seeing and hearing is that this was a priority for the city. And I think you've done a really good job doing that. I think not mine, it's everybody's intention on council to continue to resource this. I think there's still a long way to go where our commercial citizens, in regards to painting their curbs, painting their streets, things like Paul does, is going to find its way also. And I think it's going to have one of the largest impact on the beautification of our city as we enforce our code for all of be it commercial or residential. So I really appreciate your effort. You've really scored almost like on the kickoff, you ran it back.
Oh, that was awesome. And it's just for the citizens to know, I think he mentioned about MyGov. If you didn't know this already, if you go on MyGov, there is a place where you can report code violations. So people have been doing that apparently, but feel free to do that, because now we have somebody who's been doing a fantastic job and really paying attention to it. So thank you so much.
And Pete, I think I could transfer the point of the spear. He's got it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to say there's a bit of a culture change too in regards to code enforcement, because one of the addresses on San Sebastian did have a boat trailer that was parked out in front of the home. And Officer Hughes approached the owner of that boat, and instead of issuing a ticket, allowed that person to go and get a permit, like who Hank is.
Yeah, I've had a lot of help with all all of these officers.
Yeah.
It's been an effort as a group and with support of Chief Cronin, it is, they get as much credit as.
You can see from the reactions of the citizens, you're on the right track, and look down and keep going, keep pushing, and I know we have a couple of things here that we're gonna talk about on some of the wins, so I really appreciate your effort. Move on, now we're coming into the meat of the, I really do. Let me back up. I should have done this earlier. We, in the citizens' comments, I was going to recognize Gail Nelson and Can B. If you would like to have, I'll allow that.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. If I could have Councilwoman Sarah Horton, and if I could have Paul Lopez to come up. So Candy was started in 2007 to raise funds for different projects throughout the city. Since then, we created the Philp Dog Park, the small dog park and large dog park out there. We have helped with playground equipment, shades for playground equipment. We have helped the garden club, with Tranquility Garden, replace the soil. And we helped the fire department with some landscaping. And we've helped recently the Nauticats with AET equipment. And we helped the Boy Scout get his Eagle Scout award by terracing part of the marina. You can have additional seating. So there's a lot of different things that we've done, just kind of what's going on in the community and what the citizens want to do. So we run always since 2017, 2018, the Legacy Bench program and Legacy Break programs to all of this stuff. We're getting ready to have the Reindeer Fun Run. We're going to talk about it right now. We're just looking at getting sponsors, but we'll be looking for registrations here pretty soon. Last year, I think we raised close to $10,000 that we gave the city for that particular project. So we're looking forward to doing that. And what we have today, we'd like to share we have two little representatives of our duck feeders that we started. And this, we want to thank Councilwoman Horton for spearheading this project. And we'd like to give this to Public Works for saying these funds from the duck feeder are going to the animal shelter. So we just donated some money last month, and this is kind of our presentation this month. So today, we've given about $8,500 to the city for the animal shelter.
Cute. That's a great picture.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have 11 different sets of minutes as well as the Economic Development Corporation budget and mid-year report. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as is.
I second.
Seconded by James. Any questions? Anybody want anything pulled out?
I
The
wanted
consent
some
agenda?
messes pulled out of summers, only one summer.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Only one.
it's not plural,
Yeah,
right?
there was less 6 than 4 on July 10th. Not urgent, but
So let the
I'll
record
fix it.
reflect that it is a summer, not summer.
that's right, summer with an O.
It's singular. Any other comments or edits or anything along that line?
There's two 6.6s.
Oops.
Uh,
And yes, there was a,
So it is, that is a mistake, but it's still 11 different items. So, yep. Any other questions, any other comments?
I just want to reiterate that we did get the budget for the EDC and the mid-year report today on our paperwork that came today. So we did get that, so that makes that clear.
Any other questions, any other comments? Then I'd like to move to vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Parks and Recreation Committee for committee report.
Okay, Parks and Recreation Committee, we did not meet we're not meeting this month either because, the Parks and Recreation and then, Public Works has been short-staffed, when we stagger those curves, but I know Paul's working really hard with those replacements, and that's great. And also with the budget going on, we decided we're gonna go ahead and wait until after the budget's finished, so give them some relief. But I did want to mention, about the Astros event, that was a huge success. And I hope all of you guys participate in that. I think you just heard so many wonderful things. It was just a fantastic event. I really, really want to just thank Laura Ford so much. She had the trophy, and also Katie Frazier, they spearheaded the event, but everybody on the Parks and Recreation Committee helped out, and members of the council, and the mayor, and citizens, you all helped out. Thank you so much for doing that. That was fantastic. We still have some bags left if you didn't get a bag. And we're gonna be talking at the next Parks meeting about getting some more t-shirts to sell or do because people just love those t-shirts, and that was a Laura Ford and Katie Frazier logo that they developed, the Astros trophy.
Yeah, we actually had the Astros organization ask for shirts.
So we have to order them.
I don't know how we not do that.
We had the Astros asking us for those shirts. They loved it. They said it was the
Correct.
best event they had on the
Yeah,
trophy tour.
correct.
Was here in Nassau Bay. So it was fantastic with all the people that helped out in the community. And so I just wanted to do a big shout out for that. And so speaking of baseball, we have the baseball field out there, and they're taking good care of that even out here in the heat. I know some people have been enjoying that. So that's really good news. I have seen the path going in out there with our golf cart parking. That's going to be coming really soon, and bleachers being secured. So keep an eye out for that. That's coming. We also have been just talking about what projects we're going to have. We've asked for all the Parks and Recreation Committee members to, give out ideas of what they wanted to do. We do want to renovate the basketball court. As you know, it got ruined by a truck driving over it, and it looks a little bit like it needs some work, it needs some love. And so that's kind of in the agenda. We also, we have the park equipment coming in Swan Lagoon. They're gonna add a pad down at the bottom of the merry-go-round for the ADA accessible merry-go-round. And that's coming along, I think. Probably Paul didn't mention that, but he's been on top of it. And then also we had talked about doing some more plants inside the park. There's talk about another garden that the garden club wants to do over by it's right outside of David Roth Park where their Tranquility is. And then we wanted to talk about we've already talked about it, but it's gonna come more to fruition, doing the mural, the space mural on the bathroom, and even the new city manager had mentioned that we might want to renovate that bathroom down there and make it look a little bit nicer, do something on that. And we are doing a sign project as part of Keep Nassau Bay Beautiful as part of the Parks Committee. So I've gone around and taken photographs of the signs that are dilapidated, the parking signs or the stop signs. So if anybody sees anything that's like, oh, this sign needs to be replaced, just let me know. And we'll put it on the list of signs that get to be replaced. Chase has been working even out in the heat to continue with the house numbering, street numbering project. It's starting to look really good. We have our fall sweep coming up in November the 4th and 5th. And the students from Clear Horizons want to participate with us again. They did a great job for the last few vacations we did. And we're going to have them probably pick up a few paintbrushes and help us complete those street numbering. So if any of you are, wanting to get your street number painted, just, bear with us. It's been really hot this summer and getting people to come out and help do that, but it's going forward. The other thing is we are going to be fixing the ramp in Founders Park so that you can do a little road that goes up on the left-hand side so you can launch a kayak out there. Lucy will be happy to hear that you can launch a kayak again out in Founders Park. And we'll be putting in some flowers again. Luckily, we did so much in the last beautification that we'll just be topping it off instead of having to start from scratch. So that's kind of a brief mention. We talked also about doing a splash pad, a rocket ship splash pad over there in David Rock Park, and that's something that, is still in question about if we can use hot funds to pay for that or not, and we're working through those issues, because a lot of you have mentioned that we want to use those hot funds, and how can we do it? So council has spent a lot of time in the budget process to try to work with that and get some of those hot funds. And even for some events, some of the parks members were saying, we're supposed to be parks and recreation, and if you look at League City, they do a lot of nice, recreational events for people, so we're gonna take a look at some of that too. If any of you have any interesting ideas that you want to contribute, please feel free to join us. Our next meeting is going to be September the 20th, and it'll be at 6 p.m. and we'll be starting off our new year with a new budget year for that meeting. So thank you very much.
Just real quick, we had that base sale and, for Howard Moore Park for the gazebo. I know
Yes, sir.
Paul had with some other people in regards to replacement of that, but wanted to find out about when that would initiate, when that might happen, because the daughter of Howard Ward actually donated $200 for a grand opening.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I want to make sure that we capture that.
Yeah, I should bring that up. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that gazebo out there was damaged in the storm, and we do have insurance to pay for it. However, the kids wanted to do a bake sale anyway, and instead of repairing it, which Paul's going to take care of, they're actually just going to upgrade it, which is really cute. And I think it's great to see our children getting involved in that and getting out and being part of the community. So yeah, thank you for that. That's James' kids that came up here and told us how they made. How much money did they do?
They made over 650.
So I think that's really cool to have the kids involved in that way in the community. Thank you for reminding me.
Special events?
Just a few things. Jamie had set some dates, I think October 21st for Halloween in the park and December 9th for Holiday in the Park.
Yes.
Okay. Make sure those are correct, to coincide with some other events.
Yeah, October 28th.
Oh, 28th, okay.
Yes.
Same thing I pointed to. Okay, and the Holiday in the Park was December 9th, right?
Yes,
So the same flew over. Got it. And so we'll be meeting soon to start discussing plans for these events. So if you're interested, let me know. You can join us. We have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a meeting soon once we get the back to school schedule figured out here. I also, as I mentioned earlier, want to discuss an idea on checking in with citizens, see what we can do for that. And I might, Matt, I guess it was you, Robert, ask what your idea was before, what you guys had talked about before, and see if we can help incorporate that or whatever. I don't know if we can do it or if we can just generate ideas, but I want to talk about it. And then also if there's anything we can do for Jim Stewart and his kayaking event for Camp Hope to help him out. So those are the topics we have coming up, and that is it.
Lucy, just real quick, I believe, so Jim reached out and just had heads up and did submit on this video for hot funds for residents, because they're having people come in to that. And then as a special event, we all know that the school is starting and starts very shortly. So as a public safety reminder and a special event, the school starting, please slow down when you drive. The kids will be out, there'll be a lot of younger kids that will be going to the bus stops, so please be aware. And if you see anybody speaking, please inform the police. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Anything else? Then I'm going forward onto agenda item 8, which is old business. That is a discussion update on code enforcement. And one thing I want to mention here before we go into just some of the updates here, because we kind of heard a little bit. One of the things you heard from Officer Henderson is the benefit of the citizens being the eyes and ears. That you picked up on a lot of the information, whether it's SDRs or others. And I know particularly at Kingstown Court, that's also the case. That, if we really want to fix problems, it really helps staff, it really helps, city council when the citizens get involved. It really, really makes a difference. So I appreciate everybody who's been involved and a lot of the people clapping about the progress when people got involved. So thank you for that. So let's move on to 18-6410 Kingstown Court. Do you want to mention
So the renovation contract was dated in February,
We had to change the staff and some COVID problems, and we were a little slow getting the permit issued. I think that started in June. But based on the timetable of the contract, I think Mayor and I both agree that they're pretty well on target. And, I think part of the delay was our own fault, so, I think we're in good shape. What do you think?
So when I had an opportunity based off of a call from one of the citizens I mentioned, I was able to enter the Kingstown Court property. I was actually very pleased when I saw it. I think even they mentioned that to some of the citizens. They had done a lot of interior work and reinforced a number of the joints. They had reinforced a number of the doors, reinforced windows, swept the whole place. The tools were very organized. So they are in active repair, which is the first time I had seen that.
And the correspondence I got today commits to making the timetable fit the contract.
So, I mean, we're still talking a little bit. I don't believe it's totally the city's fault for some of the delays, but I am more than pleased that there's actually work being done on 18410, Kingstown Court. And we will keep the pressure on because I want to see it done.
Yeah, I think we all agree that code enforcement does work, and I'm beyond pleased with the way it is on.
And then 1910. That's Arafat, so I think we've already heard that.
We covered that.
You got that in your study, and again, thank you for that. So then move on to next, the 8.2, the legislative update. Dick?
Yeah, let me give you some high points. This could be an hour and a half PowerPoint, and I'm not gonna do that. Just to give you some idea of some of the things that happened, and anything you've got a question about, as the time goes on, give me a call. But some of the things that fell to the cutting room floor, the automatic disannexation for a failure of city to provide full services, that went away. Minimum lot size, we were to be protected by certain bills, that went away. Accessory buildings and dwellings that would be there by right and not by zoning was also defeated. An effort to have STRs preempted also failed. And some limitations on 380 agreements, which have been useful to cities, also failed. Some good changes came to 380. They allowed some real estate to change hands from cities and various things like that. They were helpful instead of hurting. And of course, online public notices were presented again. They didn't actually do that. They didn't allow it to avoid having to publish it in the newspaper, but they did require the newspapers to put it on the website if they have one. So I guess that's progress. And there was an effort to increase the competitive bid threshold from $50,000. That failed. So those are the things that didn't make it. The one that did make it is, and the worst one, let me get this here. It's called the super preemption, House Bill 2127. It preempts certain home rule city regulations, and particularly in fields occupied by a state statute in certain particular codes. The problem with that is it's real general language, and it doesn't really give us much direction about where the problem will lie. The only good thing is that they have to give, if a developer wants to use that, they have to give us a 90-day, 3-month notice, and that they're gonna bring a lawsuit and an opportunity to do something about it. Most lawyers that have dealt with this so far say we're gonna just have to wait for the courts to decide before we start making any changes like this. But the city of Houston has filed suit, and I've established contact with their office. I'm hoping that litigation will have some success in limiting the power of the state. This is a very anti-city type of legislation that should never have been passed. But it is a problem and something we gotta deal with. We don't know what it does. It creates uncertainty. But meanwhile, other things that came along, the planning and permit review was reformed to admit the shot clock where we had a situation for a while that if somebody files a plat and we don't do something for 30 days, it's automatically approved. Some of that's been loosened, and it's not as automatic a problem as before.
What did they loosen the standard to?
It no longer has 30 days as automatic. It's more flexible. So it's not really a timetable.
Yeah, it is better.
So just the way I'm reading that is for our specific use permit process.
No, that's for plat.
That's just for the plat.
Just a plat, nothing to do with specific use permit. Only a plat, but what the problem before was that if somebody filed a plat, you didn't do anything, it automatically got approved whether you had things to talk about or not. They did have some things that you have to look at that you can't do, in that process, but it's more restrictive, but at the same time, it took away the shot clock aspect of it. There's a consent annexation for roadways connecting annexed areas. So if there's a roadway that connects you, you can follow your annexation out. That's not so helpful to us because we don't have much ETJ left anymore. If we terminate a non-conforming use of any kind, and we permitted and acknowledged it was there before we passed the regulation, if we were to actually terminate that use, we'd have to pay for it now, like an eminent domain case. So there's a money that would change hands if we just wipe out, like we did on the old supernatural sign that used to be out front. What was that big thing was over by the Nassau Bay National Bank? That had a big space needle and everybody hated it. And it finally got torn down. That was a non-conforming use. We would now have to pay for that. We didn't have to pay for it back in those days. So you can't do that anymore. 10-year sunset bill as far as permit fees are concerned. So you have to revisit that at least every 10 years. You cannot have a city permit fee based on value. It's got to be on your actual administrative cost. Elimination of juvenile curfews. Yeah, we can't have a curfew anymore, and then Chief circulated something on that a while back. I assume we got that underway.
Yeah, real quickly, you know, the House Bill 1819 will prohibit cities and counties from adopting or enforcing a motor ordinance or other measure that imposes a curfew on juveniles, persons younger than 18 years of age. Means that the juvenile curfew ordinance will no longer be enforceable beginning September 1st. The bill also clarifies that if a criminal or civil action is pending for a violation of the juvenile curfew on September 1st, the action must be dismissed on this date. So theoretically, juvenile curfews are no longer in effect as of today. If we were to file a case, it would be pending on September 1st. Now, that's not to say that the city will, while the city will no longer be permitted to adopt or enforce a juvenile curfew, the bill preserves the city's ability to impose a curfew applicable to all city residents for emergency management purposes during a disaster under the Texas Disaster Act. So that's.
We need a hurricane in order to enforce it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those powers are because of natural disaster, but.
Yeah, if the mayor, if you declare
That's
emergency in the city, then we can impose a curfew, but we can't do curfews any longer.
And there's a paid illness and injury leave for first responders now under a House bill. Certain sexually oriented performances are regulated. TikTok is banned on city devices. They were busy people this time. They did all kind of stuff. You can also raise chickens if you want to in the backyard. And there were some regulations tightened were on some of the open record requests. Mostly good things that helped us in that regard. So House Bill 3033 was more good than bad. That's generally what happened. The one I'm most worried about is the one we talked about as far as the preemption by the state. That's going to be a nightmare, and why they ever passed that is beyond me, but they did. But we'll hope that maybe the city lawsuit will be successful.
Mr. Greg, any timeline for the city of Houston's lawsuit?
No, they just filed it, and there's nothing yet, and I've established contact, but we don't have any information back yet. I was asked to be informed when something event will happen, so I said they would.
Sorry, and just real quick on that aspect of September 1, correct?
Yes. Most of these take effect September 1. A few things are already in place, but for all practical purposes, everything we talked about is going to be effective September 1. That's correct.
Thank you.
That's it.
And the homestead exemption, how was,
Those,
the homestead exemption?
that's all going to be dealt with in a big package. It's a little different than what this report tonight. But yeah, I think that there's all kinds of changes in the tax area.
Is that gonna be by special session, you think? Or is it-
I don't know, it's not finalized yet,
It's my understanding, it's not.
yeah. So they're still talking about that, but they gotta do something pretty quick.
My understanding is that it's supposed to go through a vote, citizens vote for the.
I saw that, there was nothing specific about how, but I did see that split. I don't know the answer to that, except that they're still dealing with it.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
So, but if we, to do the $100,000 homestead exemption, does the state hold us harmless to that, or is
No,
that loss of revenue for us?
that's loss of revenue.
For us or
No, I was
for the
wondering
school
about the
system?
loss of revenue.
No, it's,
And school taxes and they pay reimbursement.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, my understanding.
I was told that by both Maysville and
Let me interject here is,
our finance director.
yeah, correct. What I was just gonna say is right now, but there's been no agreement. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to hear this update and have it for the citizens is that, you know, Austin is being very aggressive in regards to curbing the powers of local cities, particularly home rule cities, which is what we are. And, right now, I've heard a couple of things. I think, what Jaime has mentioned, I think is right now the leading case that the homestead exemption will go, to 100,000, but it'll only apply to the school side. I don't know how long that will hold or if that will be, because there's been a whole lot of discussions otherwise. But right now, it is for the school systems and the school systems alone.
Mr. Mayor, that apparently is supposed to be a temporary, they're looking at what that's gonna do when they issue the voucher, so I wanna say they're utilizing part of the rainy day fund, about $6 billion from one, and about $5 billion is supposed to be saved for taxpayers on that, it's supposed to be, for the schools.
All I know is Austin is creating quite a bit of, or is executing with a lot of energy and a lot of purpose to curb local control, which I find to be, you know, disturbing, because I think if there's any group that can decide whether or not on something as simple as curfew, it's a local 1.7 square mile, you know, city, not a you know, second largest in the state.
Another good example, they said no city charter can have climate provisions. Senate Bill 1860. Just can't deal with climate, so.
Yeah, and it's
So we
just,
can have weather events, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, I still would like to fight these things as tooth and nail if we can. Well, I'm sure there'll be discussions, but we have authority as a city too, that, I'd like to make us in some sense to follow the law rather
No, it's
than just do the.
inconsistent with the Texas Home Rule Amendment of the Constitution of
I
Texas.
agree.
It allowed cities to have a home rule city, and this is very inconsistent with it, but here they come.
Well, I'd like to point out that, Dick, when you and I were at, the first legislative vote, I think that was a couple months back,
Yeah.
at the start of that meeting, the PML who was briefing us, the attorneys for PML that were briefing us, asked how many people are home rules cities that were in the audience. And they also asked who is general law, you know, raise your hand if you're general law. People did, and when they did that, PML said, this will not affect any of you, this legislative session. All you others that are home rule, this will affect every one of you.
Which may bring up a different debate down, you know, in the not too distant future for this city, because I just do not, I philosophically have an issue with what they're doing. So, okay,
That's it in a nutshell.
okay. Thank you, Dick.
That's fine.
Our counselor.
All right.
I'm gonna move on to new business. This is 9.1. This is a presentation, the Leeward Boathouse and Marine Station Project. Tom?
Good evening, everyone. So you should have a handout in front of you. Just very quickly, I'll go through this, just to give you an update on where it is, sort of how it got there. A couple of years ago, the city worked with FEMA and they were able to tear down, we're talking about Leeward Lane. The addresses are 16 Leeward through 28 Leeward. They were all on the water side, a lot of them were vacant, a lot of them were in really bad shape.
Just for everybody's purposes, if you come down Upper Bay Road and you make a left into Harbor Martinique, which is, I guess that is West Indies right there.
Yes.
You go to the end and you take a right, and down the street, it's, as you go to the end of that street, it is the area to the right, the total area to the right, down in Harbor, which was all those buildings were torn down.
Right, and it's a dead end
In
street.
2018. Yeah, correct.
So the city worked with FEMA on that. The first page shows you a picture of what it looked like back in 2020, and now that picture from 2023 was taken just this weekend. Then there's a lot, the next page you'll see is all the lots. This is hand drawn, it is not to scale or anything like that. But it shows you all the lots that are involved with the Leeward project. 16 through 28, the city actually bought number 18 a few years ago, I think it was around 2019. They paid roughly $80,000 for it, so they own that. As far as FEMA goes, the city paid 1.2 million, make sure I'm looking high, for all the rest of the land. So then FEMA came in and reimbursed us. And so the city owns the entire piece of property, except for a very little sliver at the end, where that if you go down there, you'll see that it's actually landscape that's owned by a gentleman across the canal. The residents across the canal bought that. There's a little 5 or 6 parking lots or parking spaces at the very end. The city actually owns that as well. Yes. You can go on HCAD and you can find all this out. It's all there, shows the city and that's what they own. So the idea was to, we've been trying to build a dock to keep the boat on the water since this goes back to 2005. There was a fund set aside. We were never able to do it. Then we used that fund in 2007 to buy the old Boston whaler. And we never put that money back in. When the Leeward project came up, we thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity. FEMA paid to buy the land. They paid for all the new bulkhead that you see down there. And then the idea was for us to put our boat, at the time it was still a whaler, was to put the boat at the end on the water. Much quicker response. And you tear up a lot less equipment too. Anybody has a boat, you tear it up more, put it on or off, and you do anything like this. At least that's my understanding. So, that was the plan. We started the project, and the first funding that was given to us, that Harris County actually gave us $50,000. Then there was a transfer from the general fund of $25,000, so they gave us $75,000 to start. That was to fund all the infrastructure down at the site, which we used Tony Woodward. That was also to pay for the floating dock. So the floating dock came out of that money, and then all the infrastructure that was down that was put on that site, whether it was a water line, electrical line, the temporary rock driveway, all was done labor free. We did all that work ourselves. So that money was just for the parts and pieces that we needed. And then we sold the whaler, got $12,000 for that. I'm not gonna get into the whole boat project, that's a whole nother project.
It's here.
It's here, and it's in service. So the whaler, we got some money from that, and then we originally bought a lift for the whaler. It wasn't gonna work for the new boat, so we sold that for $6,000. And so then last June, and I think you have this in your packets, we came up here, and the city was doing a budget amendment, and we presented our idea to build the trailer that we currently have. Where we got there is that we went to FEMA, we got approval to build a building, but then when we got into looking at it, the building had to be 17 feet base flood. Well, we're at 6 feet, so that means we had to stick this building 11 feet in the air. So we got a hold of a Geotest Engineering, I think is the company. We had them come out, they tested the soil. We were gonna have to put in probably $100,000 worth of piers and beams and all this other stuff. Just wasn't feasible. So at the time, I asked the building official, I said, does it have to be a building? Can it be a trailer? He says it's not a permanent structure, so absolutely you do. The only thing that had to be approved was and we had to go to FEMA and say, yeah, we're gonna build this on the site. And then there what we call the power tower. And I'm sort of not following this really close, but so there's a power tower on the corner, and it's built out of wood. And that when we went to put the power down there to get electricity, Centerpoint told us, and they gave us the exact drawing of how big it needed to be, how tall, everything, and we built it exactly to their specs. So, we also have a master electrician within our ranks, and so all of that was done for free, and it was permitted. So, just to get into the project timeline a little bit here, I'll go back to my schedule. All this started back in November of 2020, when the demo was done, the pilings were put in. We began construction on the site in April 2021. In June, the bulkhead was completed by FEMA. FEMA approved the building in August of 2021, got $50,000 from Harris County in 2021 August. Then the boat died, and we got a new boat in September of 2021, which added to the project. And then by December 2021, we had all the infrastructure in the ground. The floating dock was constructed. It was a kit that we bought and we built ourselves. Did all that work. And then we also, between September and December, pretty much took the old boat in from the Coast Guard and redid everything. Motors, all the electronics, all the exterior. The motors were done by the Suzuki place down the road. So that was done. And then last June, we got the approval and the funds to begin the station, the Marine Station trailer. That is now complete. It is sitting behind the station. We're ready to move it down there. So just to give you an idea where we're at today, there's a picture, these were done Saturday afternoon. I did these using our drone. This is the site as it looks like as of Saturday. You can see the gravel, you see the trailers, you see the entire site. That's what that looks like. You can see the wooden power tower over there. That's what we call the power tower. This is the actual site that we consider as the Marine Station. It's actually, if you look on the plans, it's 28 leeward. The rest of the pieces of property, 26 through 16, we have no intention of using that. So if there was anybody that thought we were going to use it, we're not. Basically, where you see that trailer, you take a line from the water to the street, up, and that's going to be our site. There's a little bit better description on that. Next page gives you a drawing that shows the site a little bit better. The red lines you see, that is the fence. We've already got quotes on that. We'll be moving forward with that next. It also contain a sliding gate, sort of like the one in Public Works. It won't look like that one. So the next steps for us are to install that fencing gate. We've got some quotes on the small area concrete. So if you look at that drawing, the lightest gray, those areas are the area that we have bids for now. The darker gray is the areas that we want to add on. However, the one on the very bottom, that's where the trailer will sit. So that doesn't need to be concrete. So basically, I'm talking about that little L right there is what is not funded as of right now.
But again, just on your picture, where you have the red, where the black fence comes in.
Yes, it's a black wrought iron fence, and I got
It's basically gonna go zigzag around that power tower, so it'll be right there on the edge, come all the way straight, it'll kind of like, touch the circle, but not quite. But then just a little bit past that box that you have that picture, right? And then it'll come all the way across to the bulkhead.
So
Just that
basically,
just
the
that
yellow
end.
line is
The red line.
Red line.
If you're looking at this drawing right here,
the drawing, okay.
yes, it's got a red line on it. That shows you where the fence is going to be.
And if you look at the picture beforehand, you'll see there's that small box, just past the gray
Oh, I see
L,
the red
which is
line.
where you're gonna put the concrete. Off to the left is the power tower. And again, we confirm that if we want to do artwork there like a lighthouse.
Well, so.
Hotel, motel,
We're gonna
taxi.
do some palm trees maybe too.
Well, we'll get into
We'll
that
get there.
here. So there is a design for a lighthouse. We are working on that. We will construct that in-house. It'll be about 25 feet tall. We're actually working on the finals on that now. It gets funded. Power tower, the idea there is if you've seen the trailer yet, it was done with a special metal siding. We would come in and put the metal siding around that as well, same color, same moldings and all that, so they would match. So that would clean up However, that wasn't in our original funding that we asked for last summer. So the power tower covering up the building of the lighthouse and the completing of the concrete was not in our current budget.
And just for the citizens, Tom, the power tower had to be above the base
Yes,
flood
yes.
elevation,
It had
which
to be,
means,
had to be built.
which all that is up 17, 18, 19.
15 feet to the bottom of the meter box.
Yeah, and a couple feet above that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much an eyesore.
Yeah, and we built it to what they told us, so.
It's gotta be what it's gotta be.
Yeah, we've already got the drawings and we can slap the metal siding on there, that would just like the building. So, but like I said, that's not in our budget yet. We gotta get that one.
Put it into a lighthouse, it'll be hotel,
So
motel.
where will the
tax.
lighthouse be exactly?
So we're thinking, okay, so now let's look at this drawing. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's look at this one. You see where the yellow sort of jets off, sort of in this area right here?
The zigzag.
Yeah, that little zigzag, probably right in that area.
Yep.
It has an 8-foot diameter, and then it'll be like 24 feet or something like that. I can't remember the exact number. But if you look, yes, almost, yeah, right in that area. That's probably the best area to put it in. We got electricity right there for the light and all that, so I think that'll work out good. This drawing also shows you where that additional concrete needs to be, and then the last pictures that you see are the example of the actual fence and gate. It's just, if you go down to that area, it's a very common black wrought iron gate, fencing, everybody knows, a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people have that.
Very nice fence.
Yeah, that was really nice. Can I ask you another question? This is a great presentation, thank you so much. So the area from where it says like landscaping area all the way to the end, that's just gonna be empty, you're not doing anything with
Yeah,
that?
that's the city's property, we have no.
Okay, that was the thing that we had brought up when I mentioned the budget, the Parks Committee, and there's a new person on the Parks Committee that lives over in that area. And there's the people there asking if it's some palm trees or something, you know, something.
I'm just gonna say here is I really wanted Tom to be able to present this so people have visibility as to what they're doing.
Right, and then I
And
just
all the
wanted
good
to mention
intentions.
that is not gonna
And all the
encompass
good
everything.
intentions, I didn't want people to get surprised, I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I think there was some misunderstanding that we were gonna like fence in and take over the
Whole
whole
thing.
site.
Yeah,
No.
Correct.
no,
Thank you.
No, I don't want that means. And as I will add, speaking of maintenance, Paul just added monthly lawn care on our site. So
Looks a lot better.
yeah, that's something we've never had, and so that should really keep the area.
People, just real quick, so, on the design layout there in that path, so you'll be able to, egress with the ambulance backing up, so like off the boat like that.
Yeah, the number one reason is instead of paying, because the boat stays on the water, and we don't want to pay on the water fuel prices. So back when we bought all this and started this, we put a 60-gallon tank in the back of one of our pickup trucks. And we like to run the ethanol free, so we run out of puppies, fill the tank, and then we're able to back that truck all the way back to the boat and fill it. But it also gives us very easy egress on and off the dock. So, yes. And that's, right now, if you look at the drawings, it's all gravel, and we did that so we didn't have a mud pit down there. The intent was to concrete up just past where the building was gonna be and leave the rest of that gravel. It would be very desirable that it be all concrete. It would be a lot nicer and a lot easier to maintain, you won't have the weeds growing up in the main house, you know.
Will be better for ambulance.
Yeah, egress would be a lot better.
Thank you.
All right. All good with that?
Great presentation.
Yep,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Tom. Next is discussion action authorizing the interim city manager to enter into agreement for debris monitoring services with Tetra Tech as the primary contractor and TLC Engineering as secondary contractor. Did you want to talk to that?
Just real briefly, give you some history on this. This is something that we've had in place for many years. These are contracts that we want to get reimbursed for the amount of money that we would put out to have debris removed after a storm. We have to be compliant with these, having these contracts in place. The last time these contracts were looked at was back in 2018, which was 5 years ago. This summer or prior to this spring, when we got to looking at the contracts to make sure, the contracts originally were for 3 years, and then there was 2 one-year extensions. When Jaime and I started talking, Jaime did all the research with FEMA and found that while we do have current contracts in place, with Tetra Tech and Crowder Gulf, there would be subjects to not getting the reimbursement as much as possible because the contracts are so old. We were on our last extension. They advised heavily, not correct, that we go out and get new contracts. So this was in probably April, early May. So we started to look at it, and then the 23rd hit. You remember what happened on the 23rd. So there was a lot of work that had to be done in order to get this done in time. We wanted to move on quickly. So we reached out, and I want to just quickly introduce someone who's been a huge amount of help to us. Sherry, you stand up. Sherry Dietrich. She is the former police chief and emergency management coordinator for the city of Morgan's Point. She had recently retired and had reached out to Tim and said, hey, you guys got anything you need help with, give me a holler. Perfect timing. Couldn't have been better. So she's done a tremendous amount of work to get all this in place. We got the RFPs out, we published them like we did. We got all the bids back. We got 4 bids for debris monitoring and 8 bids for debris removal. So we all, myself, Jaime, the police chief, the 4 of us scored them. You'll see all those scores in there. And so we selected our primary and our secondary contractor for debris monitoring.
Tom, for the citizens and maybe some on council, can you just give a better description of what you mean by debris for monitoring and debris removal?
All right, so during a storm, when hurricane hits, if you've been here any length of time, you're here during Ike or Harvey, you'll remember all the damage that was done and all that debris that ended up had to be hauled out of here. Back then, they had contracts in place for those companies to come in. So the debris hauler it's a contract, and you don't pay anything up front. Is when you call them and they come down, that's when the ticker starts. And so when they come down and they're hauling all that stuff off, in order for us to get reimbursed that amount of money, we have to have these contracts already in place, and then we need a debris monitoring company to monitor every truck that's going out, every one of their employees, how many hours they're working, so that when we get our bills, and I think during Harvey, I asked Jaime this today, Harvey was the last storm we deployed a hauler and a monitor, and it was right at, I think it was 224,000 for the debris, and like 44, I think it was. By having the contracts in place, by letting these people do what they do, we don't have time to haul, we don't need to go try to find someone that.
That's the point I was trying to make right
We got 90%, I think, is what he said, we got 90% reimbursed. Your reimbursement rates are gonna be between 75 and 90% on this stuff, so we were able to do the 90 during Harvey. We have not deployed a contractor or a monitor since then. And as far as light goes, I do not know the numbers, so we probably.
Well, this needs to be in place.
Yes.
This is a critical function
Yes, absolutely.
for a storm situation. I wanted people to appreciate that, both in the citizens of them. This is a must-do thing.
Yes, so just make sure we were right, we sent everything over to Mr. Greer's office. He reviewed it, there were some errors and some.
In the next agenda item, not this one's a series contract that needs work.
Yes.
These ones on this one are fine.
Yeah, so, Sherry has reached out to all 4 of them, we have 3 of them are already, repaired their mistakes, I'll put it, and then series, the last one, that's in the hauling, they're working on that. Right?
It needs major surgery.
Yeah. And she talked to them, and they are working on that, they're definitely that.
Just with a little bit of humor, in Ike, our backyard had everybody's fence from every single surrounding, neighborhood that was stacked up about 4 feet. So to get all that out, to put out there, and have people be able to take it out,
Right.
that in a timely fashion is so important for getting health, safety, everything cleared out. This is really important.
Yes, it needs to be in place. Like I said, we don't have to pay any money to activate them or buy them on contract, but once you make your call, and they'll probably call you, once they see the storm, they're gonna call you first, say, hey, we're ready, we got these people, we got them on standby. Like I guess we're sort of talking about the hauling and the monitoring all in one, it's three different agenda
That's
items.
what I was gonna ask you. We got 9.2 and 9.3. They seem to be intertwined together pretty much.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, one goes without the, I mean, you gotta vote. So, I will note that, our current, debris monitoring is Tetra Tech, who is our primary on this monitoring contract. Crowderville has been our hauler for many years, but when we got to looking at their bid, it was just way too high. So, we've called the other two companies. I think the debris monitoring was Tetra Tech and TLC Engineering, and then the hauling, debris removal is TFR Environmental and Series, the one that we're working on. We've had Series as a contract.
I've only
before.
said 9.2, but Counselor, can we do, I think where James is going is, can we do these together?
You can do it together, but I'd like the understanding that certainly with the Series contract, that we'll make changes before they actually sign.
That'll be fine. Yep. But just to move this along, this is an urgent thing, because September 1 is very close. I'd like to have a motion here.
Yeah, I'd like to mention that we authorize the interim city manager to enter into agreement for debris monitoring services with Tetra Tech as the primary contractor and TLC Engineering as the secondary contractor. And in addition to that, authorize the interim city manager to enter into agreement for debris removal service with TFR Environmental as the primary contractor and Carrier Environmental as the secondary contractor with the amendment as stipulated.
Seconded by Chase. Any other further questions or comments? My only comment is, how long do you think for Sarah's that it'll take to get that done?
I pointed out in my letter what the problems were. I assume, did they get that?
They got that. As soon as that's back, we'll pass the.
It went back to you.
You're thinking days?
Yeah, it should be good.
Okay, that's fine.
Early in the morning.
Pardon me?
We'll have
Early in
it,
the morning.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
we'll have their revised back.
Then I'd like to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0.
Great, thank you. It's been a big project, so we're ready now.
Tom, kudos for bringing Sherry into that. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you.
Then I'm going to move on to 9.4, discussion and action, a resolution number 2023-08-14, amending resolution 2023-2286, and providing for a pass-through permitting fees correlating to third-party plan review to be assessed by the building department. Did you want to go over that?
Yes,
Or
sir.
did you- Yep.
Yes, sir. We're bringing this resolution before council for amendment. During the recent months, we've been without a building official, and so we've been outsourcing. And in order to, one main point of this resolution is to remove the pass-through permitting restrictions we had, which tied our hands on what to charge. We ended up locking ourselves into a certain price and not collecting our portion of the fees. So we like to remove that. And we're also asking for clarification of the building business registration and certificate of occupancy. They were intertwined as one. We've separated them out. They're two separate fees. Building registration is an annual registration, which includes a fire inspection for each facility that applies for registration. And the certificate of occupancy, which is for new build, existing businesses that change hands to new business owners, change names. So we'd like this resolution to be adopted for clarification purposes to allow us to proceed more efficiently.
So the way I read this is literally, I think you said it well. We deploy a third-party contractor to be able to do this. They charge a fee, which we then pass through, and it also allows us to do some of the code enforcement that we said, so that we can do the certificate of occupancy as well as the building certification as business registration as two separate ones. And we would then do annual fire inspections every year.
Yes, sir.
Across all businesses.
Yes, sir.
And how many businesses do we have?
We are working on updating that list.
I'm hearing it's over 1,000.
As code enforcement stated, there was 426, which is said last year there was approximately 600. So that is part of the process is to get a better listing of our
But
businesses.
just for my colleagues up here, that means this is an extra $100 per entity for per year.
Could be 200, right? If you have to do a certificate of occupancy, it goes together, Zena? Okay, great. So,
So
that is fantastic. Great work on that, and I would like to make a motion.
I could use a motion. I could use a motion.
That we pass resolution number 2023-0814, amending resolution 2023-286, and providing for a pass-through permitting fee correlating to third-party plan review to be assessed by the building department.
Seconded by James. Any other comment, any other questions?
Yeah, on that motion, it's amending resolution 2023-2286, not 286.
2286, I'm sorry, it's 2286. I will-
You'll take that amendment.
Thanks for this, I will take that amendment,
That'll
I
work.
appreciate the correction.
That'll work.
My
Any,
fellow lawyer friend.
and I'd like to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. I believe we just funded our code enforcement. That's great. Next is the discussion and action authorizing the interim city manager to enter into a cost-sharing water project contract by and between Clear Lake City Water Authority and the city of Nassau Bay. Zena, did you want to give people a little bit of background on that?
I will allow City Attorney Greg, since I came
Fair
in on the
enough.
tail end of this.
This is probably the most important thing we can do tonight.
Yeah, the contract we have with Clear Lake City Water Authority that is expired and needs to be re-implemented immediately. We own our share of the Southeast plant, but in order to get it, the water to us, we have this shared arrangement with Clear Lake City Water Authority for.
When did this expire?
Oh, it's been a while. Seal was working on it before now.
Yeah.
There's been negotiation going on, because she wanted better communication and better warning, and I've talked to Jaime about that, and my recommendation is let's get this in place, and then we can talk about implementation of some better communication, but we need the contract. And I've got the assurance of the attorney for the water authority that the draft that we have before us is acceptable, but he wants to, he has to go back and get actual approval. He's waiting to hear whether we approve the contract that we've used before. So it's the same agreement. What we got this afternoon was a change. Well, I think what you have in your packet has an exhibit to it that is not current. But Jaime, you and I have talked today about the updated attachment, and it's acceptable to you, and it seems okay to me. So I think we'll be calling tomorrow to say we're ready to sign if you can get it started. I think we need to do it.
Yeah, the way I look at this is to put it into perspective. You heard Jaime talk about how when we raised our water rates and how we've been able to create about $6 million of discretionary funding to do the infrastructure for Paul to fix our water system. Well, this is the contract finding that water supply to allow us to be able to have the water, to be able to charge the rates that we're doing. If this, for whatever reason, were to fall through, this would be a terrible. This has to be done, and it has to be done as quickly as possible.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, I think that based off of what we discussed in regards to that current funding increase and that, I would like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a cost sharing water project contract by and between Clear Lake City Water Authority and the city of Nassau Bay as amended for,
Do I hear a second? Seconded by Chase. Any other questions? Any other clarifications?
Is the O&M on Exhibit A standard?
Is that what everyone has for O&M?
Just curious. Why it's a separate exhibit from contract?
I don't have a copy of what you got. What do you have?
The Exhibit A, which is the O&M rate, which is referenced.
I know what I sent in, but
My understanding.
Jaime, this is the same thing?
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah, I'm just
original one.
curious why there would be a separate
Yeah.
exhibit, yeah.
The exhibit B will be different.
Yeah, Exhibit B is the percentage of ownership, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
The O&M.
okay. Is that rate the same as now in this contract, Jaime? For exhibit A?
It's the one pager.
It says the O&M rate is 0.02 cents per 1,000 gallons of water effective. Of course, it's got 2020 on it, so it will have a different day. That's the right number.
We'll
So he's saying he
verify.
doesn't know.
Well,
And I agree with you, I didn't vet it
We'll
either.
verify that, because we gotta make the other changes anyway, so.
So can I have that piece of paper real quick?
And the date on it is, yeah, 2020, so, yeah.
I just wanted to have it. So would you amend that with confirmation, the other thing for the O and M rate is, reflective of what it is for the 1,000 gallons of water, for, what's today, August 14th, 2023?
That's fine.
Yeah,
Because it'll be standard. We've been given those numbers. I just don't know it relative to this one here. And I know it's changed. I mean,
oh, it has changed.
I believe it that has changed. Yeah,
And we'll clarify that before we
Yeah.
send
but it's, we need to define it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the supply contract.
Okay.
Would you amend your motion to include that?
I said yes.
Okay, and Chase, you accept. Any other questions? Good catch. Any other questions? Any other comments? Then I'd like to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Here we go. Next is agenda item 9.6, discussion and action, appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Let me take this one if you would, please. We had lost a number of the applicants in the cyber attack. What was in your packet was not reflective, I think, of everyone. I would like to, let me back up a little bit. We have 2 positions that are open on the planning and zoning. And what I'd like to do tonight is, I had talked to one of the individuals who I had known had his application in before. He is somebody who's been a very strong advocate for improving management systems, as well as being involved in best practices and things along that line. The gentleman is Glenn Venerables, and what I'd like to do is elevate Glenn to one of the positions, and then have Zena ask for a number of applications for us to reestablish the number of applicants, because I remember there were 6 or 7, and we just don't have it because of the cyber attack. And I really want to have that choice for people, but I believe Glenn is very well skilled, that I think I'd like to see him elevated tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
We got the SUP.
I would like to say that Glenn has participated, advocated, and has spoken more than anybody else in the systems in that. So I know this is a discussion, but I would like to make that motion to put Glenn in.
Well, there is action,
Yeah.
so.
I'll second that
Yeah.
motion.
So moved by James, seconded by Michelle. Any other comments? Any other questions? Is that approach acceptable to everybody? Or
I think it's a
everybody?
good- I think it's a
I
good
really
choice.
want to make sure we have everybody there.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely really valid.
Yes, because, we're encouraging, we have that open position, and so we're encouraging the public to apply to that spot, do it through the website, take the right calls.
And the Compass Rose, Jamie, she's still there. No. I would just do the same thing we did for the charter review committee. What I'd like to do.
Sign up.
Okay. Then I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or discussion? Then I'd like to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. So the last one is 9.7, discussion action, the appointment of 5 citizens to the 2023 Charter Review Committee. I'd like to take this one too. If you remember, I've been the one pushing, and I think, to do this early. We're doing this 1 year early, but there are a number of, I think, issues with our charter that need to be reviewed. Our challenge tonight is that we have 15 applicants. Bob Waters was also an applicant that didn't get on here. Given some of the legal interpretations, a lot of times we have done this in executive session, but these are really supposed to be done in public session. So What I'd like to do, if you guys would permit me, is to kind of go over some of the things that I think are important and a straw man of people that I think would be reflective of that criteria. Because we've got a real dilemma here. We've got 15 people of highly skilled individuals, all of which could probably participate and do a good job. So we're going to have 5 people who are going to be pleased and 10 people who are going to be disappointed. And so welcome to public life.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just real quick, while we're doing this, it's important to note that with this charter review and with the legislative changes coming into effect September 1, that actually is it's
timely.
Very timely for us to be doing this. And so it's important that the charter reflects those changes that are coming to the state and that it's updated for current status of the city.
Fair enough. So just from my perspective, in looking at this, I thought it was very important that at least one individual was a lawyer. I wanted to have some geographic participation. Particularly, I felt pretty strongly that Bal Harbour needed to be represented. I wanted it to have people who are involved in certain other organizations so they could tap into their network, so that they would be able to be well advised as a member here. And I also wanted some people who have been in the city a short time as well as a long time. And I'm even going to say this, I heard very clearly from the citizens that we really wanted to move away from tribalism and try to have more and more unity, and they were looking for me to really do an action to help facilitate that unity. And I think this is probably one of the areas that we can do that. So with that, I would like to propose 5 individuals and maybe an alternate, and then that would be the starting point of our discussion. This is by no means prescriptive, but for the lawyer, there is Charlie Ballman on Barbuda, whose background is in representing cities, governments, specifically in the areas of charters. There's one person, I believe, who should be on this committee. It is that individual. I'd like to see Gail Nelson be as part of CAN-V and the board and the people that are in there be on the charter review committee. I'd like to see John Haugen, a second generation firefighter and somebody who's been on council in the past, be on it. I would like to see Ralph Farid from Bal Harbour. He's also been a senior manager at the Harris County Flood District to be on it. And I'd like to see Gary Mossman. They're a very long time citizen here, and his wife's been on the CCISC and has been just a long-term they've been long-term individuals working for the community. As an alternative, in case somebody falls off, I'd like to see John Cush. John Cush resides on Kingstree Lane and has quite a bit of experience in environmental affairs and things along that line. And I think that would be a very good team of people with a variety of the backgrounds and skills along the criteria I'd laid out. And I offer that as a beginning point for a discussion for the charter review committee.
I think it's great. I think you did your job.
And I think this is where we start to discuss, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
It is.
I'm really hoping to, you said that you think it's important, and I very much agree, and it's part of what I ran, saying that I really want to give new people the chance to have community input, input in what our city's doing. And I liked the people that you mentioned. The only thing about Gary Mossman is there's a couple of issues with that. One, he submitted his application late. It stated August 7th. I actually told a couple of people that they were too late applying, that approached me after the 31st and said they wanted to apply. I said, well, the deadline's the 31st, if that's what was printed in the Compass Rose. In addition, he's already on 3 committees. You know, and I think we need to really look at the other people that have applied. I think Ryan Clark is an exceptional person. He has extensive background in the military, you know, former Navy officer. I think he would be a great person to help the committee, and I don't think he's not currently serving on any committees. So I will put his name forward and hopefully Mr. Lawson.
I wanted to disagree with that because the fact that we talked about having the charter and having a founding father, and I would say that there is probably one of them. He served on council, he was mayor pro tem. Also mayor, he knows a lot about the history of the city, what they wanted to do. His knowledge is so extensive, I really think we need to keep him. If we have to, you know, maybe rethink the other committees, I think that would be, it's really important for Gary to be on this committee.
Others?
Well, I have to say that I think that the representation of South Harbor is very important. And I think that's fantastic that we're pulling them into it because they have not had very much representation and very much for quite some time.
Agreed. Ralph is an excellent choice.
The other part, I think that with the charters that, of course, it's going to be going through some of these things, our legislature, having that attorney, it is really key, I think, to what we're trying to do here. But also, some of the things that affect us being a water-bound city, and that having to do with some of these things that are going to be tied to situations we're going to have to address in regards to emergency management and other things that have not been put into the charter that might need to be added. I think that those are things that are emerged also that have not been recognized. So,
I mean, one of the things here is this would mean a majority of the people are people who have not really served on board before. We've got 2 people who have, which means I kind of like that balance. I really do, because it gives you know, people to provide new perspectives and but at the same time have some people of the minority of the group to be the ones that have served before.
My understanding of Mr. Halvin, and I don't know him very well, is that he was on city council, so I think he would obviously provide that sort of input. And just like I said, I think if we allow Mr. Mossman, who submitted his application late, then we should allow other people who might have applied to apply and then reconsider this.
You want to table it?
No.
I don't want to, but I think I don't think we should put a deadline on something and then say, you know, that it would prohibit other people that might have applied from being put in the pool.
But did we just let
Let me hear from the other
didn't
people.
have.
Let me hear from the other people. James, Chase, Lucy, Paula?
The people who are interested, you literally told them don't do it.
Well, I had 2 people that said, oh, is it too late to apply? And I said, well, it's August 2nd, so yes, consider it on July 31st.
Gary had mentioned that he had actually put it in and it was not on there, and he asked me to check, and I checked with Zena, and they didn't have records, so we just redid.
I'll say I did have another individual that I reached out to, and let him know that there was a deadline on it. So if he did, Gary, are you aware of him submitting anything, or is there anything to show that there was some kind of, I don't know, Secretary lying about his application, but I just want to make sure that if he did submit it prior and we allowed him to submit it as, you know, supplementing the one previously, then I'd be okay with moving forward, but do you have anything that would show?
No, sir. I don't have anything from the cyber attack. Everything's gone.
I'd be interested to hear what Paula has to think. Sorry, I just want to know what you think about this one.
Well, my first reaction was, let's put them all on there, because there's plenty of discussion for everybody, and then we'll come together
But that would be in violation of the charter.
That's what I was gonna say, that's what I was gonna say, because I think every one of these people have something to offer. And I appreciate that they all took the time to sign up and they're that concerned about our city, that they want to be on something as boring as charter. So that was my first reaction, oh, let's take them all. But then I realized that we were limited by the charter by 5, which
Which counselor even told me I've done a stretch to have an alternate on there that I may not be able to do.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I would like to say that I actually made a request about having some alternates in case somebody could not be on that. I was told that was not possible.
what was that called?
An alternate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
And,
we'll come back to that.
and I think we're really trying to be inclusive. And this is a perfect issue where our charter isn't serving us well, in my opinion. Because I think we have so many good people that could do us good service. So it's very hard to select. I do think we need somebody with history. I think that's important. I didn't know that Gary's application was late. I do think that we need people that can get along and come to consensus to bring us what we need in 6 months. And my final comment is I hope they change the charter so that we're not limited to 5 people, because this job is huge. So that's my perspective on this right now. But I'm having the same hard time that everybody else is with who to pick and who to eliminate.
Mr. Mayor, again, I think that it's important that the remit of the position needs to be run out of what their job is to do in regards to the position of being on the charter review committee. I think that's important because this isn't just change, you don't just change the charter, it goes to a vote. And so it has to go out to the public and the public votes on it. No one sitting up here changes the charter. These things are all done by citizens. And so I think it's important that everyone understands that these individuals, whoever they are, they're chosen, will suggest and make these recommendations that will go for the citizens of Nassau Bay to vote. Every citizen is ready to vote.
And I want to emphasize that I don't have any ill will or disrespect to Mr. Mossman. He's an exceptional person. He's given the city a lot. I just, this is part of the thing that we've seen with this city is the recycling of the same people over and over, the same faces, the same people. And I think that if anything, this election showed us that, other people want to have a voice. And so I think this is a good chance to allow somebody that's never served on a committee to do it. And yes, they do have to bring everything to council, and then we will then decide if we will put it to the vote. Right, right, has to go to the voters. But it will be presented to us and then it will go to the voters. So, I think it's our chance to, and I really do, I like the thought you put into it, Mayor, for sure.
Yeah,
But like I said, Mr. Mossman's on 3 committees, he's on the planning commission, the reinvestment zone, and the infrastructure task force.
And from my perspective, I'm trying to strike a balance because I don't believe you say experience isn't valuable. I believe this has been, these candidates have been put forward so that there's a majority of people, which is I think the first time we've done that, where there's people being involved that have not been involved in the past. And I very much worry that if we go too far to where people haven't done any type of participation, then the skill and the experience level will not be sufficient for the task.
I have to agree there, because if you think about, this is, I understand people might want to have some new ideas and fresh ideas, but I don't know that the charter committee is the place to do it. We don't want to change what the city is supposed to be about, what it was founded on, why it is the reason why the new people came here. The reason why the new people came here is because of the way these people, like Gary Mossman, were instrumental in setting the city up to be what it is today. And I think it's not just about going in and saying, hey, I have an idea. What if we did this with the charter? No, it's really about looking at what do we want from our neighborhood? What do we want the future of our neighborhood? We don't want it to be part of Houston. We want it to still be a suburb. We want all of those things that made people want to come here in the first place. And I think it's really crucial that we keep what you suggested.
Did Gary reach out to you and say my application not filling up?
No, sir.
How did that happen?
I was asked if we had his application, and I said, no, I do not have it. So, I said I was told he did submit it, but I did not have it. And so it was
And so when
resubmitted.
you reached out to him, he said, yes, I've submitted one and it's not filled out.
No, I was informed by the mayor.
So there's no communication between you and him.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and appoint to the charter committee Charlie Bauman, Gail Nelson, John Haugen, Raul Farid, and Greg Mossman.
I would like to, before we go into that, have a bit more discussion, because I'd like to state that, and for the record, I'd like to be reflected that people talk about, people being on committees for a long time. And I have to say that there have been people in the city that when you were concerned, that have been, at least when I was elected, had been on committees for a very, very long time. And new people came in and they sound like they had never had a chance to do that before. And so I don't know, and granted, Gary's been in for a while, but, the degree of engagement for everybody, every cycle of elections, is important that everyone has a chance to be around and be on a committee. But the charter itself is probably one of the most important things that we do based off of all the committees that we have in the city. And that reflection, I think, needs to be one that's taken very seriously, thoroughly, and assessed, so that the residents of our city have a chance to actually review what is being proposed, the differences, and be able to make a well-educated, informed decision on what they need to. Now, granted, someone who has not maybe sat on one or two or whatever committees might not allow us to do that. I'm not stipulating that, Gary should or should not, but I think this is important that people recognize how important this is in relationship to getting it onto a vote, getting it onto the election, and getting it out there so that everyone's aware of what it is that they do vote.
Mayor, any motion?
Yeah, Michelle moved to, for the recommended slate. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
And then continue the discussion. So I moved by Michelle, seconded by Lucy.
So I really do appreciate, the history Gary Monson has of this city. And that's, he was one of the ones that said, hey, let me take you out and show you everything in this town, where we've done work, where we've done, he just knows every step of every process for decades. And I think that's really valuable in something like this. And I also think that we historically and have not held ourselves to deadlines on submitting these things no matter what. And I know we say, yeah.
I would even argue that there is no deadline in the charter. There was something that was said in the Compass Roads, I believe, but that's not really.
That's not part of the charter.
Anything like that.
Yeah. And Glenn Venables had had an
I
application,
actually
and he
take
just got
Gary,
appointed.
I don't think anybody's saying to Gary that he's being, untruthful and saying he tried to sign up. If he did not try, he would not have made that. I don't think anybody's saying that.
I'd like that to go on the record.
Pardon me?
I'd like that to go on the record.
Okay.
You want that to go on the record?
I would like that to be reflected in the minutes.
Yeah.
Could the application have gone into the cyber state, just the attack? Are we looking at any others that could have, was the timeline different, that it wouldn't have been part of what was lost in the attack?
It could have been that. And also I failed to mention that we had change of personnel and emails were going to a different department and we were trying to collect them. And so I did miss one that Councilmember Horton brought to my attention was Ms. Brown. I did not have it, but it was actually in the former communications director's email. So, but she did do a search for further applications after that.
see if you get a paper application.
I'm sorry?
You get a paper application?
Yes.
He just came into the city.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm. Correct.
I guess, my question would be, is there consensus around 3 out of the 5?
Actually, I don't know Mr. Bauman very well. I mean, the fact that he's a lawyer and has experience in this area gives me, you know, I like that. You know, Deidre Brown is also an exceptional municipality lawyer, like that's what she does for a living. Really dives into details, would be an awesome addition to this. But you're saying you're trying to pick people that, you know, everybody will
Well,
want.
I think
And so
there's,
I'm trying
yeah,
to,
I agree with that. I mean, I really try to look at things, and I mean this sincerely. It's not only the individual characteristics, but I want the team to be respected and have the team elements to come up with the things, because I agree with James. I have a lot of concerns around some of the areas in our charter that are needing to be done. And I want teamwork to be part of the group so that they can work well together and represent the community. So, yeah, it's a big part of it.
Yeah, I've never met a meeting, but I thought this application was outstanding.
it was your call.
Pardon?
Two.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's new. Okay.
So is there somebody else that we would see in, it
I
appears
mean,
to
I just thought, you know, Brian Clark, who has been a resident in Nassau Bay for 24 years, and, you know, he's past president of Houston Council of the Navy League of the United States, past president of Texas Commander of the Naval Order of the United States. I mean, he just has an awesome resume. He, you know, I just think he would add a lot. I know you're trying to, I just have a principal issue with Mr. Mossman being serving on so many committees and then being put on this one as well. And the fact that his application was late and that would open the door to these other applicants that I had told, oh, well, there's a deadline. And I guess I'm new to council, so I guess I didn't know the deadlines don't matter. But to me, I read that July 31st was the deadline, so I took that as, I guess it's coming through this black and white.
Well, also as an attorney, I would say that, I mean, you really gotta dig into the details, right? So you really have to understand who Gary is. I don't anticipate Gary being an individual that would not submit an application and then come back and say, oh, I did. I don't think that that's the type of person that Gary is. I'm not saying anybody's saying that Gary is that type of person. I'm just saying that if Gary says he submitted one, I believe that Gary submitted one. To go through the other individuals that Mayor mentioned, Mr. Fareed, not only did he work with the flooding, but also, technically he's an engineer. Very detail oriented, my opinion. Mr. Fareed.
From Harbor.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I've got several family members that are engineers, and they're very detail oriented. I would love to see that on this, committee. Mr. Haugen, him having served on city council before, knows inner workings of the fire department. Yep, he's got a lot of experience around the city.
Second generation.
And Mr. Bauman, he does commercial litigation, so that's, again, also.
And Gail Nelson.
And Gail also is great with Candy, and in fact, she knows so much about the city. I like the five that we've offered up. You know, I would like to add an alternate. I mean, I think Mr. Fox would be a good option as that, but obviously we don't, you know, allowed to have an alternate currently. So I like the five that have been presented, and if I could, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, there's already motion in a second. I'm allowing discussion.
I would like to just clarify, John Haugen's first generation, he was 1 year. I can attest to that because.
Yeah, we were just semantics.
Yeah.
He's
So
his parents and
somebody who grew up here that was there when it was in, as it was
Part of
in the city. Right.
Founding father.
Right. Gary moved here, so that he's not like that.
Okay.
So again, are we ready for a vote, or any further questions, any comments? Then I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor? So 6, I can't see, Sarah, you? No? And so that's 6 and not? Sarah? So 6-1, it passes.
Okay.
Yep. I'd like to come back to the alternative in regards to if somebody perchance, say they got hit by a truck tomorrow, right? And we're, you know, is there, I'd love to have a non-voting person that would be part of this, that would go to the things and be there in case somebody had an issue. I mean, I can't, for all the reasons I can't describe, is the reason why I want to have somebody at least listening in and being part of it as an alternate.
Are we allowed to do that?
Or you go, but you don't have an office for them to fill because it's not under the term. So
So we'd have to have another meeting?
you have to change the term. So that's not.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is, when something happened, like what Phil
Well, you
said,
can know that that's the person you would put there, if somebody sitting there, gets somebody get hit by a truck, but.
Well, that would be what the alternate.
But you would not actually give them a formal role.
Okay.
Well, it's like, I don't want to go against, yeah, sure.
And that's the case because I did make this request early on and 2 individuals didn't put an application in because I was told that was not allowable. And so if we're going to allow it, I'd like them to be considered.
For the alternative.
I don't think you should consider it as an office.
Okay, so that's what I'm here, and I think, let me gain control of this a little bit. I put that out there just because I wanted to see the legal viability of whether or not, because I see tremendous value that, you know, if somebody got hit by, like I say, got hit by a truck after the first 2 meetings, let's say it that way, that somebody doesn't have to be brought up to the, so they don't have to be brought up to speed, that the team can keep going, the person is an alternate and just can listen in and, but just be non-voting. And I, given that they aren't voting or anything like that, I didn't see how that would violate the charter if they were not of any authority to vote.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that they're open meetings.
They are.
So anybody, any resident can participate. I was.
They can come to this one and, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm looking at is I'm trying, I get that and I appreciate that. That doesn't mean that the person who would be required to take somebody's place in case they got hit by a truck, as we have a little funny laugh going back and forth here. But, you know, that they wouldn't be able to speak. You know, not everybody who goes to a you know, open meeting would choose to go to it, but we're kind of telling this alternate, yes, they would.
I don't think you want to create that office though, because it doesn't exist. I don't think it's important.
I don't think we should or we can't.
I don't think you can, because I don't think they're there.
That's illegal.
Can we, since they are meetings of people that have submitted their applications, want to go to these and listen in?
Yeah.
Sure.
There is some kind of instance where someone has to step off of that, we can approach or have another session where we can discuss.
But it would not be something where on a given night, and when somebody didn't show up, and the people who've been showing up were there, they wouldn't be able to vote.
Correct, I'm saying if they went to the meetings, observed, and if one of those 5 individuals could no longer serve on the committee, then we would be.
They're eligible.
Yes.
For employment, and they're not appointed now to their role.
and that we could maybe encourage people who hadn't, you know, applied
I
to
think it's a
apply.
great practice, but
And attend, so if there is an option, then we can vote that in at another meeting, right, something like that, is that right?
And this group could come up with a charter change recommendation that creates an alternate position, but we don't have it yet.
I would also, and I mean, I'll stand behind what you say, you know, Counselor, because this is a legal discussion, and if you say we can't, we can't.
I would just like to mention that we're gonna need every one of these persons to get this charter passed in the citizens group when we go to vote. And so I hope that people who didn't get chosen can see how difficult this was for us and how, in my mind, limiting 5 people are. So I would hope that the people who are could help us get it passed, will show up at these meetings, listen, and distribute information to their constituents that they know, whether.
If I could add, because I completely agree, Paula. I mean, I believe there's people here who have very, very much a value that can be part of this. I would ask every citizen, whether they are interested in being on the committee or not, to look at the things that are in our charter so that we can actually have a basis of some of the things we know are wrong, just for them to start. Because there are things that are just, no longer applicable that need to be taken out of our charter. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of focus on committees and things along that line. All I know is the broader the participation, the better the success.
Can I ask a question? Do they have during the charter committee meetings, the time for the citizens to come up and have a hearing before the committee, or no?
I don't believe so. I believe it's an open meeting, but they can be recognized. I believe they got to choose their own officers, all the things going on.
Mr. Mayor, I do hope that within the context of this, that information has been updated as to that the current printed charter is the current printed charter to date. As we realized with some of the resolutions and minutes and things that were collected over a period of time, they have not been updated. So I'd like to ensure that
I'll even call out some people, I hope Roscoe, I hope Brian Brown, I hope Bob Waters, and I hope Laura Ford, even though they're not listed on here, all help these individuals. Those are highly experienced, highly educated people involved. And I think the makeup of the group is one where they'll have access to that, but I would hope that they would provide that help and guidance. Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, do I hear a second? Second by Chase. All those in favor? Time to go home, folks. Oh, I have to look, I don't know.